Tyler, I think the question that both of y'all asked was, well, when do we learn something?
Sure.
You've learned something.
We have.
And everybody's learned something, not just you and Jay.
And going back to our conversation, I feel like both of us kind of thought maybe we'll learn something in the waning weeks of the season because the Braves weren't playing for anything. I know they went on that 10-game win streak, but they were out of the running for the playoffs for a while. So the back half of the season didn't really account for much. And I thought then we might learn, hey, Brian Snitker last year, give him kind of that proper way to go out. And, Charlie Morton had his farewell to the Braves on Sunday, which is really neat to see. And you would think that the Braves may have positioned Brian Snitker to have something similar last home game, wave to the fans, say goodbye, thank him for everything that he did. And that didn't happen, but we did learn earlier on this morning, first from Jeff Passan of ESPN and then from a press release by the Braves that, yes, indeed, Brian Snitker will step away from being the manager and move into a senior advisory role with the Braves. And, of course, he's been a lifer with the organization, so that makes a lot of sense. But, there'll be a new skipper at the helm next year for the Braves. So
part of the reporting here by Jeff Passan is that Snitker informed the Braves of his decision. It was not the Braves' decision.
That's interesting.
Are you going with that, or is this a saving face move here?
And I believe his contract was up at the end of this year, so the timing works out. I think it's one of those things where maybe they kind of say, hey, do you want to come back with kind of like the implication of, hey, we'd really like it if we went a different direction where, again, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but I would imagine there was a strong encouragement that, hey, maybe you hang it up after this year. We'll give you a advisory role, whatever that ends up meaning with this organization. You're still going to be on the payroll, still treat you good and all that kind of stuff. But, we'd like to have somebody else be manager. So I feel like, if anything, this is the Braves kind of giving him the pathway to make this decision himself.
Well, so this is interesting to me, and it's Major League Baseball and it's college football, but it's very similar to what we just saw with Mike Gundy. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, why is that, Gunner? Why is it? Well, Brian Snitker had been with the Braves in some capacity, player, coach, manager, since 1977. Yep. And Mike Gundy had been with the Cowboys. I know he'd been...
He coached for 20 years, but he played for him, too.
Played for him.
And he was an assistant under Les Miles.
Right. I want to say he'd been there for roughly about 35 years in some capacity. And so, you wonder, did the Braves go to Brian Snitker? Again, as you mentioned, his contract was out. Mm-hmm. Was going to need a new contract. But did the Braves go to him and go like, hey, you've been around, man. We love you. It's time. Yep. It's time. Yep. Let's do this a nice way. And as you just said, we're going to move you into an advisory role. We'll give you some money. We'll kind of keep you on the payroll. And that way everybody saves face here.
Yeah, that's the way that I kind of read into it. Because, again, this seemed like the writing was on the wall for a while. And, again, you thank Snitker for what he did, helping bring the Braves to the heights of winning a World Series a couple years ago. And, I wasn't alive in 1995, so that's the only one that I've seen in my lifetime, which I'm very appreciative of him for. And the teams were always consistent. They went on that long run of winning the NL East, but these past couple of years they've begun to slip a little bit. He got bounced in the wild card round by the Padres last year. This year, and injuries played a part in it as well. You just weren't competitive in the back half of the season to make any kind of run in the playoff. And again, and that's not all on him. That's organization, Anthopoulos, all those guys, and the decision-making that they have in addition to the injuries. But you just kind of think like, all right, because how old is Snitker now? He's
69.
69.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think he's 70 yet.
So it's like, do you look at, he's 69. He'll turn 70 in about 2 weeks here. But, it's like, all right, much like we talk about some of these older coaches in college football, do you see your future in a guy that's 70, hanging around for another 5 years? Or do you go ahead and make the change now? Whether you bring in a younger guy or bring in somebody or move up somebody that's already in the organization, I don't know which way they're going to go. But the timing seemed about right for this to happen.
So the question will be is who do they bring in? Because it feels like this particular window with this particular group of players now is open.
Yeah.
And you're going to have you got a little bit more extended, but I'd say probably 3 or 4 years here, depending on how you want to look at it. You might want to extend that out. You might want to trim it down. But basically, the time is now. The time is now. So you can't go bumbling around and bring in a project. You got to bring somebody in that can run this team next year and put you back in contention where we watched you play yesterday, not the Yankees blowing the lead to the Red Sox, not the Reds getting absolutely destroyed by the Dodgers last night and so forth and so on. So the time is now for the Braves.
Yeah, and the Braves have a history of either moving guys up or hiring guys that have been a part of the organization before. Obviously, Bobby Cox, Freddie Gonzalez have been with the Braves prior as a coach before he took over as manager. So it's like, okay, do you look at somebody that you already have and say, we're just going to move this guy up? Or do you go out there and make a, I don't even have to be a young hire, but a splashy hire somewhere else and bring somebody in from the outside that can kind of give a fresh perspective on the organization and look at the talent that you have and all that kind of stuff? Do you go with, we were talking about this in the last hour, do you go with a young analytics guy? Again, Brian Snicker, very old school, you know what I mean? Like, and there are analytics people within the building, but he's still very much a coach by his gut type of guy. Do you bring in somebody that has a different philosophy, bring in somebody with the same mindset? Like, a lot of different ways you can go with this for the Braves.
So that was the news for today is, again, Brian Snicker steps away, not retire. Yeah, I tried to figure out how to phrase it. I don't know. Won't return. The official wording is won't return.
Yeah, you're not wrong with any of those descriptions, but yes, not returning as manager, I guess, is the most safe way to say it.
There you go. So that was the news of the day. Major League Baseball did get underway. The playoffs got underway yesterday. Did you get involved? Were you?
Yeah, I watched all day long. Again, we were here for the Tigers and Guardians, so kind of on and off watching that game. Once I got home, I kind of finally lock in a little bit and take in the games, and fun. That Yankees Red Sox game was a lot of fun. It looked like Aroldis Chapman was going to blow it there in the top of the bottom of the ninth, and ends up hanging on there, which baseball has so many stories and so many layers. For that guy to be in that position with the Red Sox pitching in that kind of scenario, that just adds layers to what's already a very tense game.
Very interesting. Now, I might have let you down, and if so, I apologize. I put out a wager because I know he's a Red Sox fan to Brian Glenn yesterday.
Yep.
Pizza for Preemies Month is coming up in November. It's
right.
Part of he always partners with Preston through some shared experiences there. So I know that we'll have Brian Glenn around here at the station in the month of November for some things. And with that being said, I told Red Sox fan, and I actually forgot to wear my Yankees hat today. I should have. Might be the last day I can wear it. I think I've also upset Terry Ford wearing that before, as he is an Orioles fan.
That's true.
But I said if the Red Sox win, I will go to Village Idiot in November, and I'll give him 2 hours of my time for free, and I'll make pizzas.
All right.
I'll learn to make pizzas.
Now, do people have to eat these pizzas?
If they want. If they want. You can
assume at your own risk.
You can come get a Gunner-made pizza. If the Yankees win the series, we get pizza, and he's got to sit in here with us wearing a Yankees shirt.
Okay.
I felt great in the seventh inning, and this brings me to a really interesting point about Major League Baseball in 2025, and it's been this way for a few years. Max Fried was at 102 pitches last night.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like 25 years ago, Max Fried would have thrown to about 120 pitches to try and close out Game 1 as he was rolling, and instead, Aaron Boone last night just kind of pulls the plug. Now, in today's age of Major League Baseball, 102 pitches is a lot.
Sure.
You've almost left him out there too long. But in a pivotal Game 1 where Max Fried is rolling and your bullpen's been kind of disgusting to begin with, controversial move, and you lost the game. They come in and the bullpen blows it.
Yeah, the bullpen got shaky right away there, and I don't necessarily think it's thinking ahead of, okay, well, if you win the series, we want to make sure he's in good shape for whenever that next game would be, coming up next week, where you get the opportunity to start, because you don't know if you're going to get there. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things that hindsight being 2020. It's because you look at what they did with Garrett Crochet on the other side, where they let him go as long as he could go. He sat down 17 straight batters, and once he started to show a little bit of sign of trouble, then they said, okay, we'll make the switch, bring in the bullpen, and close this thing out. But yeah, you feel like Fried maybe had a little bit more juice, and if he goes a little bit further, maybe the Red Sox don't score those runs. You're not having to, try and knock in your bases loaded situation in the bottom of the ninth to win the game.
It's just such a change, but we've seen this. It's not like it occurred just in the last few years. This has been coming really over the last 20 years, where teams are so conscientious about pitchers' arms and pitch counts. But with that being said, Tyler, 102 pitches last night for Max Fried, again, who was dominant, who was rolling, and they go out and they yank him. And all I could think is, about 20 years ago, 102 pitches, you would have looked out there and you would have said, all right, you're good. Go out there and get it. You're perfectly fine. We're going to allow you to try and finish this game, and that's not what happened.
Yeah, and I loved every time, because it was Luke Weaver that took the mound after him that ended up giving up 2 of those runs, and every time a Red Sox player would get a hit, they just keep showing Max Fried. He's just getting more and more frustrated because when you're in the clubhouse after the game, you did your job. You did what you were supposed to do. Is everybody else that failed you at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was entertaining. As you mentioned, we got them going again here in just a little while. It'll be the Tigers and the Guardians in the starter for today. I should say they're in Cleveland, 1:00. That'll be on ESPN. And then coming up at 3:00, the Cubs took a 1-0 series lead. I know Jen was happy about that.
Yep.
They get San Diego at 3:00 today on ABC. New York and Boston tonight at 6:00, and in the late game, Cincinnati and Los Angeles. So good Major League Baseball right now to carry us through with no college football or NFL on a Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's what makes the month of October so great is you just have stuff happening constantly. So even these kind of lulls in the middle of the week, you at least have that baseball to look forward to. Divisional series will get started this weekend, and obviously we get back into the football swing of things tomorrow night with Thursday Night Football, and on into a weekend that we can kind of sit back and enjoy a little bit because there's no Carolina football and you can just relax, not having to worry about what the Gamecocks are doing.
We'll get into yesterday. Yesterday, we went through a lot of big picture things with both South Carolina and the college football world. We'll do that a little bit more today, but in this particular hour, we're going to focus in on Lenoris Sellers. We're going to talk about him. Be open-minded. We're not saying he's been a disappointment, but we're going to ask the question. And coming up next, Perry Orth, our resident QB guru, will join us. We'll get a little thoughts from Perry Orth on what he has seen from the footwork from Lenoris Sellers, the development, and what he's seen from the offense as well. And then after that, Tyler and I will break that down and talk about some of the statistics and what Lenoris has been doing. So we got you covered here for most of the day. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain David Dare. It is the Halftime Show. 12:18 on a Wednesday. Windy Wednesday here in the Midlands. Hope you're doing well, whether you're listening in Charleston, whether you're listening in Myrtle Beach, Florence, or if you're listening somewhere on the 107.5 at The Game app. We appreciate you tuning in this afternoon. And joining us now to give us a little quarterback breakdown, the one and only Perry Orth. And Mr. Orth, good to hear from you again. Hadn't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, man, appreciate you having me on. And glad you're doing better and glad to have you back on the airwaves, man. I know you had a little bit of a health scare, and kind of seems to be the common theme around Gamecock Nation right now.
Yeah. Odd. What a weird, odd run here in the last 2 months. And thankfully, it seems like everybody's on the mend, whether it's Travian Robertson or Connor Shaw, and then obviously myself. So we move forward, and we hit the bye week, and that helps us mend a little bit. But let's get your take here. Big picture football team. We'll focus in on the offense in just a second, and Lenora Sellers there in particular. But 5 games, you've watched this team offensively and defensively. Your big picture takeaways through the month of September.
Yeah, I think that defensively, other than the second half against Missouri and, a couple plays here and there against Vanderbilt, I thought we looked good. I think that the defense seemed to really get settled in last week against Kentucky, and it was good to see us kind of, minus the first drive, really stymie their run game, and we got pressure on the passer and forced turnovers, and it looked like Clayton White defensive performance 101 right there. And offensively, obviously, it has not been the start that we've wanted. I think Lenoris is they've got a lot on his plate, and he's doing some really, really incredible things, man. He's just a gifted guy, and he last week was the first game, in my opinion, where I feel like he settled in, was himself. I think he was 11 of 14 for $150, but made some great plays when the pocket broke down and really seemed to get back into a groove. I thought the play calling, the run game selection was phenomenal. I thought they did some really creative things, from outside zone, inside zone, gap scheme, counter, zone read with Lenoris. And right now, that's the kind of effort and the kind of creativity that we're going to need to manufacture, explosive plays in the run game. And if we continue to do that, I know the schedule's hard, but the schedule was hard last year, and we went on a 6-0 tear. So I'm not too worried about that. I think we've got everything, for the most part, is right out in front of us for the team to really make a run and have a great finish to the year.
Hey, Perry, appreciate you doing this. And you're right. The past 2 weeks, through the air against Missouri, and obviously with his legs last week, the best we've seen Sellers play so far this year. So when you look at him from a mechanical standpoint, what are the biggest differences from last year to this year and how he is playing?
Yeah, I don't think mechanically he's changed. I think from a throwing the football, posture, I think he looks the same. I think where what I saw in the first few games was him maybe trying to be more of a prototypical thrower and just dropping back and just holding on to the ball to try to make that throw instead of doing what he does best. Hey, if the pocket breaks down, go and do what you're gifted at doing, and I'm not sure if that has to come, if he's hearing somebody say something, hey, for you to get to be the draft pick, you need to be more of a pocket guy, and I couldn't actually disagree more from the truth, and I don't know if that's being said, but you look at guys like Josh Allen and Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, these are guys that are playing for Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls that play a lot and have a very similar game to Lenoris. So I really, really loved what I saw on Saturday night of him to just, hey, when the pocket breaks down, just run. There's no need for you to try to make that perfect throw or do some perfect QB thing, right? Go and move the sticks, move the ball down the field, and then when the explosive play is there, play within the play that's called, take advantage of it. And I thought that he did a really great job of that on Saturday, and I really expect to see more of that as the season goes along.
Perry Orth joining us for a few minutes this afternoon to kind of analyze the South Carolina offense. You kind of high on what you saw there on Saturday night, but let's focus in on Lenoris. Kind of, what do you make of his footwork right now? At times, I thought it's been a little shaky. I know this is an area that you're very big on when you do your camps and your sessions. And if you're breaking it down, what have you seen with his footwork, and do you see it changing from last year?
I actually don't see it changing from last year. I think, when I start footwork, pocket movement, I think that, like I said, I think that he's hung in the pocket at times a little long that has caused him to get a little off base and off platform to make throws at angles that you probably shouldn't be making throws in, right? And so him, in my opinion, him sitting in the pocket at great length puts him in uncomfortable throwing situations, whether it's Lenoris or Luke or the next guy, right? So when the pocket's there, right, my big thing is that if you're in the pocket, you get two movements, right? Right, left, up, back, 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 up, whatever it is, two movements. And if you have to move a third time, get out of there, go. Get out of the pocket, or if the pocket's kind of coming around you, climb it, and then climb up and then get out. But, I wouldn't sit here and be like, his footwork's a D, whereas last year it was a B. I think it has to do more of, like, the mindset of what he's trying to accomplish. And that's why, again, I keep highlighting last week's game because I felt like it was as good as it had been in weeks. And I think a big reason for that is because he seemed to say, you know what, screw it. If it's not there, I'm just going to take off and run. And so he seemed more comfortable, more polished, and just more like what we saw of him last season.
Again, a couple more minutes here with Perry Orth joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. And off of that, because we watch it either in the stadium or on TV, and it obviously happens fast for us as viewers, but when you're in that pocket and the protection is breaking down, got guys closing in around you, that processing, where a year ago it kind of seemed like, that first instinct was take off and run, but he is definitely trying to keep things alive more by keeping his eyes downfield. I mean, how it takes inside the mind of a quarterback. How does all that go in those split seconds and making those decisions of, okay, now it's time to run, or no, I think I have an opportunity to keep this play alive and make something happen with my arm?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's exactly it. When the pocket's breaking down and you're getting tight, if you don't have an immediate outlet to get rid of the football to, you have no other option but to run it or to throw it away. And what I would coach him if he were one of my guys, I would be like, hey, man, if you're getting tight and you're in a pinch, get out and run. Go make a play. The other thing that comes with the development of quarterbacks is just understanding where you're not protected. Now, he can't help when, he's in a five-man protection and they're rushing four and still able to get pressure on him. But if a team's bringing pressure, like just knowing that, hey, I have this protection on, I've got my center guard tackle to my left side. They're short fanning where I've got man-to-man on the front, and I'm responsible as QB for Mike and Sam. If one of those come, I need to be understanding where I need to get rid of the ball hot or where I need to pull my running back to pick up one of the guys blitzing. If both come, then I've got to throw hot off of the Sam backer, right? So understanding that is going to help him in his development, and then that will help with footwork because he'll have time to throw and he won't be having to make throws in difficult positions. But then ultimately, again, when the pressure's there, go ahead and tuck it and run and make something happen with it.
About 2 minutes left with Perry Orth here as we get his breakdown. Of course, we'll definitely start getting him back on to analyze this offense. But, Perry, during the bye week, put on your coach's hat for a second. You focus, Perry Orth, the offensive coordinator here, focuses in on one specific thing you got to get fixed. What is that for this offense right now? Is it just as simple as, hey, the offensive line and blocking, or is there something else?
No, I think it's just perfecting what it is that you do. If we're going to stay in that, like, mix of both zone and gap scheme, like, make sure that we're all on the same page of our, like, day one install plays. Make sure that guards know where they're going, tackles know where they're going, receivers know the right route. Get good at something, perfect that, take that time over the bye week to perfect your mechanics and work on your mechanics to make sure that you're throwing the ball accurately and catching and tucking and doing all the things that you need to do from a form.
Oh, you still there?
Hello?
You there? Yeah. We got you. You got you?
They put the car in park. Heard that.
Was that the car in park?
I think so.
Perry, we still got you there?
Maybe we lost him on Bluetooth. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Oh, well. He was making a lot of good points, though.
A lot of good points. I know he's heading to do something, and but we'll definitely get him back. I said we'll come back, but we'll analyze all that, and we'll talk about we'll talk about Lenore Sellers and what we've seen this so far through 5 games. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Tyler Head, Captain David Dare. It is the halftime show. Thank you again to Perry Orth for joining us there.
Sounds like he got to his destination safely.
He is doing good. We text with him. He is text with him, and or text with him right afterwards. And yes, he's doing well. And
Okay, all right.
He'll be back. He'll be back with us.
Sounds good.
Next week, and we'll talk a little bit with him as to what he sees getting ready for Garrett Nussmeier. By the way, and we'll get into it next week. A lot of rumors out there about Garrett Nussmeier and an oblique injury.
And don't ask Brian Kelly about it.
Yeah,
you're just barking up the wrong tree there. But
there was a fake tweet that was out there yesterday.
Well, there was. If you remember back to in camp, there was, and this really happened, where Nussmeier, I think, got hit on a play or something like that, and they told him to sit out the rest of practice as precautionary, as you would do with your quarterback. And maybe it wasn't hit, or maybe he grabbed his side or something along those lines, and for precautionary reasons said sit out, but there was nothing past that where they said, okay, this is an issue. But when you're seeing his struggles through the first 5 games, like, okay, maybe there is something that they're just not letting on. And I told Weston Chris, I put on my best Carolina fan hat because I said, okay, I see how this goes. Bye week, he gets healthy, and he's back to 100% in time to play Carolina because that's South Carolina luck, and including Mateer coming back the week after that and looking like Mateer, maybe even better after his hand surgery. Am I doing this right?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Well, there goes that Wednesday. Yeah, it is. So you bring up the Nussmeier thing, though. That's right. And we thought, a lot of people thought, I think ESPN thought game day would be in Baton Rouge. I think a lot of people thought that this would be a showdown of Heisman candidates. Mm-hmm. And both have not lived up to maybe their billing. But the question is what do we make of the first 5 games with Lenora Sellers?
It's definitely been not disappointing, but underwhelming, I think is the right word, considering what the expectations were coming in, because he finished the last half of last year maybe hotter than any quarterback in college football, right? And rightfully so. We spent the entire offseason hyping up Heisman and first-round pick and all this kind of stuff, and it's not all on him because you've had issues elsewhere on offense, but we just expected more, right? So it just feels very incomplete through 5 games, I guess.
So let me ask this. I thought about this when I saw you put this in there and how I framed it, because I'm starting to think about Lenora Sellers. Okay, his season is 5 games. Thought he played fine against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, it was fine.
Had the great. Now, mind you, I'm focusing on Lenora Sellers out there and not the whole offense. But hit the long touchdown pass to Nick Harbor. Had the great first drive with the run. Made a few plays in particular. Really should have had a second touchdown pass to Nick Harbor that the official's still trying to figure out if it's a catch or not. So I thought he played fine. I get it, and I wasn't here for it. I wasn't here on the Monday morning reaction for the South Carolina State game. And I don't know how that South Carolina State game was truly so ugly that I think it has jaded our opinion of Lenora Sellers more, because the Vanderbilt game, he only plays a half, and he's playing good.
Yeah, he was 6-7, had a couple runs at that point.
He got tricked on one play.
Got tripped on one. Yeah, who knows what happens if he plays the back half of that game. But he'd started off the game fine. And the entire offense was just inefficient. They went 3 and out on the first 3 drives. It took, again, defense and special teams is giving you a little bit of a gap before things kind of finally got rolling on offense.
You're talking about the
South Carolina State game.
Well, hold on. Yeah. Well, let me because I was going to say, because the Vanderbilt game, he comes out and he looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then he gets hurt, and we all know how that went. And then the Missouri game, he does throw for 302 yards. Yeah, he takes some really dumb sacks, but he throws for 302 and throws a couple missiles that are exactly what NFL scouts are talking about. And then this past week, we all go like, oh, yeah, that's Lenora Sellers. So all of a sudden you go, well, wait a minute. If I break it down in that manner, why do we think he's been, and I'm going to use the word disappointing, why do we think he's been? That South Carolina State game was so ugly.
Yep.
And I think because of the rain, and I was at home, I was thankful I missed it and everything, but it was so bad that I think we're almost holding that against him. Again, I'm talking Lenora Sellers only, Tyler, not offense. You take that game out and you're like, if you break it down, he's been about who he really is.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair way to look at it. And I think a lot of the frustration, disappointment, underwhelmingness, whatever word you want to use, stems from some of the sacks that he's taken this year. And go back to the Missouri game where, again, you're first and goal at the 2-yard line. And yes, Rasul Faison should have done better with that, block on the, blitzing linebacker. But that was like one of the many times you're like, man, throw the ball away. As talked about with Perry Orth, if you don't have somebody there, throw the ball away. If you're not going to, break out and run, it's the decision making at times when he's taken negative plays that I think has kind of skewed our perception of what Sellers is. Because you're right, when he threw the ball against Missouri, it looked great. Explosive plays. He was the reason why they were in that game at the end anyway. And this past week, we finally saw him look comfortable running the football again, breaking out of some of those tackles behind the line of scrimmage and stuff. We just haven't seen it all come together in one game like we expected him to do right out of the gate to start the season, go on this Heisman-esque type of campaign, which he just hasn't done so far. So, again, all things considered, outside of the South Carolina State game, it hasn't been like bad, but it's just not been where we hoped it was going to be.
Yeah, so yesterday, I think I gave him a C. I think I gave him a C in average.
I think I gave him a B minus, B plus.
I'd probably bump it to it. And here's another reason why. He's taking care of the football through 5 games.
He is doing a really good job of that.
That was a big thing last year with him, specifically to fumbles. Interceptions, I get it.
He only has one fumble, but he got recovered. He didn't lose it.
And so I say all that because here's the other thing about Lenore Sellers. We can cry and moan and complain about those bad sacks. But you look at the Kentucky play on Saturday night where he gets spun around and he breaks free and he runs down the right sideline in front of the bench. That's Lenore Sellers. You're going to get a play where he's in somebody's grasp, he gets spun around, he almost goes to the ground, and then it looks spectacular. And then right now you still might get a play where, that play he could have been spun around and lost 7 or 8 yards. And you have to live with that. I think that's who you have to live with now. And when you, whether I'm making excuses for him or not, when you view it from that vantage point, I think you go, okay, I got it. And to me now, I think I inappropriately graded him yesterday. I now bump him to a B.
Yeah, and I guess because we saw him take some bad sacks early on in the season, and he just kind of chalked that up to, okay, first time starting quarterback, offensive line wasn't great. But once he kind of started playing with that, the LaMagic plays where he's spinning out of things, dumping guys over his shoulders and all that kind of stuff, I don't feel like we saw as many egregiously bad sacks that, were his fault necessarily. It was, hey, the line just didn't block some way. They came through. He didn't have a chance to escape. So I'm hoping what we saw this past week against Kentucky is the catalyst for, okay, in the final 7 games, that's the plays that are going to be made now that he, for whatever reason, feels more comfortable to make those kind of plays as opposed to what we saw in the first 4 games.
We'll find out. Because what's going to happen, LSU's going to blitz him.
Yes.
They're going to blitz, and I can pretty much all but guarantee that the offensive line's not going to pick it up. And this is going to be very similar, in my opinion, good or bad, very, very similar to what happened with Texas A&M last year, where you had a lot of free rushers coming at him, and it was a one-on-one situation, and he made a miss, and then he made something explosive happen and moved on from there. So, interesting conversation there. After talking that out, I would say I feel better about Lenore Sellers.
Yeah. Like you said, when you kind of break down the numbers of the first 5 games, it's not been like terrible. And again, a lot of things went wrong in the SC State game, not just, with the offense and some of the things that Lenore Sellers was doing. But yeah, I feel like if this was him, if these were the numbers for the first 5 games a year ago, we'd say, he's off to a pretty good start. But considering we set the expectations and bar so high, it's not quite living up to where we thought it was going to be. So I guess that's where the frustration comes from.
And real quick, I didn't see this because we were prepping for the show and walking in, and it was about an hour ago. But Pete Nakos with On3 Sports has put out a report, and it says sources tell On3 that LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier continues to work through the abdomen strain, and the bye week will be key for the rest.
I look forward to Brian Kelly being asked about this either this week or next week and seeing what his reaction is.
And Chris Lowe has responded just a few minutes ago and said there was concern inside the LSU camp going into the season that Nussmeier would be impacted by the ab strain, which is never an easy injury for a quarterback trying to throw the football. So there we go.
There you go.
All right. So we'll talk more about that next week. We'll come back. We'll wrap up our number 1. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Wrapping up hour number 1. Anything you missed, you can check out our podcast page. Captain David Darrell get that Perry Orth interview up there, and we will get that tweeted out so that if you missed that and you want to hear his perspective on the South Carolina offense and the Lenora Sellers, you can do that. Anything you took away from what he had to say about the offense as a whole?
Not really, and I guess as hindsight becomes more clear through 5 games and stuff like that, again, I get what they're trying to do. It's just the execution hasn't been there in a lot of ways. So, and look, we're not wrong for being critical of Mike Shula, but, if the guys on the field did things a little bit differently and some of the jobs are being done a little bit better, I think we'd have a different view of what this offense is. So, I get where Perry's coming from with a lot of what he had to say there.
So we'll get that podcast up for you and kind of go from there. Have him back on next week to prep for South Carolina and LSU. But again, you look at this team, and we're going to talk more national, big picture college football coming up in hour number 2. But, Tyler, you look at this team, do we feel comfortable with where the defense is? Because that's also an interest. I feel comfortable with it, with where they are.
Right.
But I don't want to project my feelings onto the public here and our listeners. So I put it to you, listeners. You can text in 803-404-6100. You can just say yes or no. Do you feel comfortable with where the defense is? I do. I personally think they're in a good spot.
I do too. And much like the offense, I feel like we maybe got a little bit of a false perception in that first game because you won against a Power 4 opponent. And I don't know if we foresaw Virginia Tech being as bad as they've been through the first month of the season. So maybe that was a little bit of fool's gold. But in that game, J.R. Johnson looked great. The other linebackers, Justin Okoronkwo, looked great. Brandon Cisse looked great. Like all these guys you were expecting to be kind of the names on this defense did start off the season strong. And, again, they did their job by holding SC State at bay for most of that game while the offense was trying to figure things out. I think really the perception shifted with how poor they looked against Vanderbilt and Missouri, mainly came to missing tackles and not being able, to slow down the run. But that being said, I think what we saw to them this past weekend against Kentucky reinforces some belief. And when you have a defense that's so new and young in a lot of ways and replacing the talent that they did, it's not unexpected that they would have some growing pains, some bumps in the road early to start the season. You hope what you saw, and I get it, Kentucky's probably the worst team in the SEC this year, so their performance against Kentucky is not necessarily indicative of what they're going to do against LSU and Alabama and Ole Miss and teams like that. But you hope that is a good way for them to carry momentum into the bye week, and that's more of a representative of what we can expect out of them going forward. Because if they play anywhere close to that, you're going to have a shot in all these games against really good teams.
Yeah, they gave up that touchdown very, very late against South Carolina State, but that was the first touchdown they had given up all season.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of holding their own against Vanderbilt, and then, unfortunately, the floodgates just swung wide open in the second half. KT from Lexington hit us up and said the whole team pretty much quit when Sellers went out of the Vandy game. I feel like that game was very winnable. We should be 4-1. And, that's another part. There is an odd vibe that occurred in that Vanderbilt game when Sellers went down, and I do agree with that. I don't know if quit's the right word, but there definitely is an odd vibe. But even the Missouri game, it was the missed tackles. They held their own. I want to be clear about that. The Missouri game, I thought they held their own. They just, they something went haywire with the tackling, and right now it's still a little haywire.
Yeah, and that goes back to the Vanderbilt game as well. They missed 10 tackles in that game. So, it's not like they were out of position. It's not like they were getting blown up at the line on every single play. There were some instances of that, certainly, but it really came down to the fundamental of, hey, you're not bringing these guys to the ground, and especially against a team like Missouri, they're going to kill you for that. So if we feel like they've fixed that fundamental issue, then you expect them to be a lot better, going forward, and especially against a team like LSU that, as we talked about, is struggling on offense themselves quite a bit. I'm like, okay, I think this defense can hold them around that 17 to 20-point mark that they've been at most of this season. It comes to the question of, can the offense pick up the slack and be able to score around that to give you a chance in that game? We certainly don't know, but I don't feel like you're saying, okay, well, if you want to win these games, you're going to have to start scoring 30 and 40 points a week, because I do think the defense is good. Maybe not as good as a year ago, but they are good overall.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I think the defense in a good position, and we'll continue to monitor that. Talk about that. But coming up in the next hour, we'll get into some big picture, a little buy, sell, and Johnny Manziel. Okay. Johnny's pressing up on being lovable and then being unlikable again.
Well, that's kind of the line he walks, depending on if you're a fan or not.
Yeah, well, we will get into that a little bit. But a quick look around South Carolina athletics. Coming up on Thursday night, tomorrow night on ESPNU, monster showdown over at Stone Stadium. The women's soccer team, Shelly Smith and her team, number 10 in the country, take on number 7 Arkansas tomorrow night. So it should be a really fun one over at Stone Stadium. Encourage you to get out and go support Shelly Smith and the women's soccer team, as again, they've moved into the top 10 there, and they've got that great showdown coming up against Arkansas, who's number 7. That game will be televised, by the way, on ESPNU if you're not in a drivable area to get there. And then Tony Annan, our good buddy, they've rolled along. They picked up another nice win over the weekend, going up to James Madison and getting a victory. They right now currently sit 7-3-1 on the season, 1-0-1 in conference play, and they are taking on Central Florida on Saturday night. So you don't have a football game to go to.
There you go.
You can go back to Stone Stadium and check out Tony Annan as they take on Central Florida. And also, real quick, I know nothing about the horses. I know nothing about what's going on, but the equestrian team, did you see this? Number 2 in the country.
All right.
Keep up with that equestrian. Yeah, that's right. And just knocked off number 2 SMU. So good times in Gamecock athletics. We'll roll along, get into some big picture college football. Hour 2 on the way. 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. I haven't done my research just yet. I was thinking about this actually earlier and got tied up, and I'm going to kind of do it real quick. When we officially start getting the Maction Wednesday games.
Ooh, that's a good question. That is usually...
It's probably about two. I'm going to go 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
It's into October. I know that. But yeah, that's usually
right.
about mid-season.
So
I
yeah,
say.
2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday. 2 weeks from Tuesday.
Heck yeah.
Tuesday, October 14th. You got a nice. We got Sunbelt. We'll have Sunbelt Tuesday. Maction
It's the
Wednesday.
Fun Belt and Maction.
Okay, yeah, New Mexico. Well, it's New Mexico State, Liberty, Arkansas, South Alabama, Florida International, and Western Kentucky. That starts on the 14th. Let me just make sure it's not next week, too. Oh, no, next Wednesday night. Next Wednesday night, the 8th. So a week from now, we start getting those Wednesday night games when you get a Missouri State, Middle Tennessee, and a Liberty UTEP game. So you can check out Jamie Chadwell. Once a hot commodity in the coaching profession.
You can call me a sicko. I'll watch it.
I'll have it on the. I unfortunately will be having it on the television as well.
By the way, I'm looking at these future schedules. There can't be a team that plays more Thursday games than East Carolina. They played Army last week. The next 2 weeks, they also have Thursday games. Like, they are the most Thursday team in college football.
Did they settle into Thursdays?
I think they've settled into Thursdays.
Okay. East Carolina, there could be a worse Thursday night team. I'm not gonna knock that. I will admit I try to pay attention. One of the first things that happens every year when they really get a Thursday night schedule set, I do kind of try to go through and look to see what's going on. We don't get a great Thursday night game tomorrow night because of potential Game 3s in Major League Baseball. ESPN doesn't even have one. They got Sam Houston at New Mexico State tomorrow night. That'll be, CBS Sports Network has that. So that's your Thursday night game tomorrow night coming up on ESPN. And then I'll get you the NFL game, which will be the 49ers and the Rams. And you'll be able to hear that right here on the 107.5 The Game. So a light Thursday night schedule before we get into the Wednesday games starting next week.
Right. Yeah, because that's when the baseball coverage, I guess, switches to TBS, I think, for the divisional round.
Yeah, I heard him say it the other day. I can't remember who's got who what this year. I feel like because I guess they're switching. They switch on and off every other year. One gets one league, the other gets the other league. And I did hear TBS the other night as they were signing off. I want to say they're getting the American League this year. It was something that kind of caught me a little off guard, which is why it registered in my brain and why I remember it. But speaking of baseball, they are getting going in Cleveland, and it'll be Detroit and the Guardians coming up here in just a few minutes. They're showing us the highlights from yesterday. We will make some picks here in a little while. I put mine on Twitter yesterday.
Yep.
I did research, by the way, last night. We're going to bring back the Wheel of Punishment.
Yeah, where'd it go?
I got a feeling Jen took it home. So we're gonna get a smaller one. I'm gonna get a smaller one, a little tabletop. I did some Amazon shopping last night, and we're gonna get that, and we're gonna start making some picks. I mentioned earlier in the program, coming up in the month of November, something that's very near and dear. I know to Preston Thorne's heart. Something that's very near and dear to our good buddy Brian Glenn. They do, Village Idiot does pizza for preemies. So I put out a wager with Brian Glenn last night and trying to help us here, too. Let's be honest. If I can get us a free pizza that while we're...
I'm down for it.
Yeah, while we're doing the show.
I've not met a Village Idiot pizza I didn't like.
If the Yankees win the series, me being a Yankees fan, if the Yankees beat the Red Sox, Brian Glenn's going to come sit in, make us a pizza, and come sit in with us. He's got to wear a Yankees shirt because he's a huge Red Sox fan.
I didn't know you were a Yankees fan.
Yeah, and I have a backstory, a legitimate backstory. So when I was little, when I was nine, my mother had leukemia.
Okay.
And we were up in New York for a while at Sloan Kettering Memorial Hospital. I went to a lot of Yankees games. So I was 9.
Okay.
So I became a fan.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not just a random they win.
Right. Which there are a lot of people that do that.
So yeah, I got a little bit of a backstory on. I'm not just random, but so. I put out there, I texted Brian yesterday, put out on Twitter, if the Yankees win the series and they're down 1-0, Brian's got to bring us a pizza and he'll sit in here and cut up with us.
Yeah.
He's good conversation anyway, so we could live with that. If the Red Sox win the series and they're up 1-0, and I'll get out and do this for a great cause, I'll go in November to Village Idiot, whichever location he wants me to go to, and for 2 hours, I'll give him 2 free hours of my time. I'll be in the back making pizzas, serving up some pies, and I'm going to tell everybody to come out and get a pie that day and see how I do.
I was going to say, they might be able to taste the difference between yours and his.
We might stunt business growth for a day, but we'll have some fun. And so what Tyler and I will also do, we'll get this wheel of punishment back in here, and we're going to pick here coming up some teams, one team out of the American, one team out of the National League that we expect to get to the World Series. And as long as one of those two teams gets there, we don't lose.
Okay.
That's going to be kind of our.
That's fair.
It's going to be kind of our punishment. So we'll get to that. We're going to start creating that. If you want to weigh in on any punishments we should have, 803-404-6100. Speaking of Major League Baseball, we opened the show talking about it. The Atlanta Braves will make a coaching move. It's been 10 years for Brian Snitker, and now the Braves, as I kind of mentioned to you in hour one, this is the window now.
Yeah.
That whoever shows up, whomever you hire, is expected to win the World Series next year with this roster. They got to make a few small tweaks and changes here or there, but it's nothing more, in my opinion. I heard Dabo Sweeney say this one time. It's nothing more than an oil change. You don't have to rebuild the engine.
Right. Okay.
It's a slight oil change, and you roll along with what you got there in the organization. So whomever they hire, and I don't have a list. Did you see the kind of the crazy stuff because the Giants, the San Francisco Giants job is open?
Talking to Vitello, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that is kind of the crazy thing about baseball is they don't a lot of the time in terms of like managerial positions. You'll get the guys that comes up as pitching coaches and position basic coaches and stuff like that, but very rarely do you have somebody that gets hired as a manager straight from the college level. I can't recall the time that's happened. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but that would be definitely
I don't know of anybody
significant.
I don't know of anybody that's gone from. To answer your question, anybody that's gone from, like, say, just coaching at Tennessee to coaching in the pros, kind of like you see in football and basketball.
Sure.
I know people that have worked, or I'm trying to think, the Milwaukee Brewers coach, and his name is escaping my mind, I believe was a college baseball coach. He was a college baseball coach and is now the Brewers coach. But he also kind of had a different path where he did that and has worked his way up. And I'm trying to look it back up because I can't quite remember where he is at right now. And I think he's the interesting coach who has had pancakes in his jacket and has kind of become a little bit of a character there for them.
Yeah, so he had, you're talking about Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy.
So he had coached at Notre Dame and Arizona State for a long time.
Thank you.
I'm trying to see here. I'm trying to see what he did since then. It looks like he was away for a while. But, yeah, so he had it. But he didn't go just straight from college to coaching in the majors. But, yeah, he had a long tenure as a college baseball coach and then eventually went to the majors. But Vitello getting hired from Tennessee, if it were to happen to go to the Giants, that would be a little unprecedented.
Yeah, going back, Pat Murphy actually left Arizona State in 2009 and went to the San Diego Padres. He was hired as a special assistant to baseball operations, and it says skippered the Padres Northwest League affiliate, the Eugene Emeralds, as their manager. So, again, he did a little time. But any idea where the Braves might even want to go here?
Here's the thing. Braves, a lot of the times, like to hire guys in-house or guys that have been a part of the organization before, so it wouldn't shock me if they went that way. The name Walt Weiss gets brought up as the bench coach, and somebody that's kind of the right-hand man to Brian Snitker, which would make a lot of sense. Again, how does that bring a new mindset or philosophy to this? I don't necessarily know. I know last year when they brought in Freddie Gonzalez as third base coach, there was all the he's positioning himself to be the manager again when Snitker's done. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it's very much a Braves thing to kind of stay in-house, or maybe they go outside. If they go outside, there's no telling what direction they would look, and maybe they go younger coach with a statistical mindset or philosophy or whatever, because that's kind of a lot of what baseball is now. But yeah, I don't know. This could go either way. I haven't even seen a list get put out yet of the hot board of what names to be looking out for.
Big picture, there's a tweet. The Braves just put a tweet out 2 minutes ago. And I mentioned this in hour one. Big picture, this is really interesting when you compare what has occurred here with the Atlanta Braves against what has just occurred in college football with Sam Pittman and Mike Gundy. and they all kind of in some way, you got like a Venn diagram where they all can kind of meet in the middle, where Snitker has been with the Braves organization since 1977. Gundy's been with with Oklahoma State for I don't know how, for at least 21 years as a coach, and longer than that, played there. And then you got Sam Pittman, much like Brian Snitker. Sam Pittman brought Bobby Petrino back.
Yes.
You mentioned Snitker brought Freddie Gonzalez back.
Yeah.
And it appears Bobby Petrino just played the long game on this.
Which we knew that from the beginning, what was going to happen there. Once a snake, always a snake. I don't think Freddie's that kind of guy. But, yeah, that would be interesting if that's the route they went.
But I say all this because Tyler and I were talking about at the beginning of the program. Snitker is going to move into a special advisory role and kind of finish out his career. He's 69. I think you said he'll be 70 in a few weeks. But the Atlanta Braves just posted this tweet, and you can see it's 2 minutes ago. It's this very nice, like wedding, almost like a wedding picture of Snitker and his wife, I guess Ronnie.
Yeah.
And it's just, we love you. And so it's kind of like the Braves went to him and like, look, we can do this one of two ways.
Sure.
You've been around since 1977. We want to give you a nice farewell. We want to build you up. This is kind of what Oklahoma State could have done for Mike Gundy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just time to go different ways.
Yeah.
But we're going to build you up and make you look great. We got this whatever picture there. Again, you go to Atlanta Braves Twitter, and it's like him and her, and their faces are together, and there's flowers, and it looks just very nice. But you got to resign. You basically got to say, I'm stepping down. And not only that, we're going to put you in a nice, comfy role. We're going to give you a good office. You can kind of wander around the facility here in your latter years.
Yeah, it's a clean type of split, right? Where the coach has to have, or the manager has to have, a sense of self-awareness to kind of know, like, hey, yeah, this, I don't know if I'm the guy to lead this forward and get this team back to where they need to be. And I'll equate it to like when Mark Richt got fired at Georgia. That was the most like soft firing I've ever seen, where they had a press conference and everybody's laughing, having a good time, and Rick's thankful and all that kind of stuff. And he's still been in the fold and been brought around the Georgia program a lot in the years since because of how much he's beloved and how much he gave to that program over the course of 15 years. And it kind of seems like the same thing here with Brian Snitker, where it's like, yeah, all right, man, we really don't want to have you back, but we're not just going to, cut you off and throw you out into pasture or whatever. We can make this look good. We'll still give you an advisory role, or you can be a part of it going forward, and you'll still get a paycheck and all that kind of stuff. But we need somebody else to manage this team. So ball's in your court, how you want to handle this, and we'll let us know your answer, basically.
Yeah, that's and again, you look at, because from all accounts, it does sound like Oklahoma State did go to Mike Gundy. It was like, hey, you want like a 7-game send-off?
Yeah, and they apparently they did the same thing with Pittman too.
Oh, really?
Like, hey, that's what Yurachek said the other day. Is like, hey, I went to his house, spoke to him, and gave him the option to coach out the rest of the year. He didn't want to do that, so we moved on. And it's funny because there's a difference here between how Snitker's handling this. I saw some of his comments a little bit earlier on, and like when Pete Carroll got moved into the senior advisory role with the Seahawks, where he clearly did not want to do that, and obviously left and became the head coach of the Raiders, where like you can tell Snitker's like, okay, yeah, this is probably the best choice for me, as opposed to a guy like Carroll's like, no, I still want to coach. You're forcing me out, but I still want to coach. I'm going to go find my way to coach somewhere else.
Right.
I don't think that's the same thing with Snitker here.
Well, and let's be honest, coaching baseball, 162 games, it's a grind in the summer. When you're 69 years of age, I'm sure he's got fine money.
Sure.
I'm sure the wife was kind of like, hey, honey, the beach is a good place during the summer.
We actually spend time together during those summer months.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the big news of the day. Brian Snitker out for the Atlanta Braves. Be interesting to see who they hire there. We'll come back, get back into college football, do a little buy-sell as we wrap up the month, or as we did wrap up the month of September. What do you think about certain programs? You going to buy them now going into October, or are you selling them? We'll talk about that. You're listening to The Halftime Show. 1:20 on your Wednesday afternoon. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, and Captain Dave Adair as we roll along and looking now back at some big picture college football. Tyler, yesterday we got into most impressive wins and most impressive teams, most impressive players, so forth, most disappointing players.
Yep.
Now we kind of look a little bit more big picture at teams with a little buy-sell action here.
Yeah, I think we'll kind of go down the route of what's been the biggest surprise so far, and there's a lot of teams that can certainly fit into this category. So how do we want to format this here?
You throw them at me.
Okay,
You throw them at me. You offer your opinion, and I'll offer mine.
All right, I will throw a team at you, and you buy or sell that they have. What they've done so far this year is surprising to you. How about that?
Okay.
By the way, all these teams are undefeated through the first 5 weeks of the season, for reference there.
Good job.
We'll start with one we saw a couple weeks ago. Vanderbilt, buy or sell that you are surprised that they are where they're at so far this year?
Well, at this point, no. Well, maybe, yeah. I didn't have them beating South Carolina. Does that count?
Yeah.
But so am I surprised they're undefeated? Yes, because they had to play South Carolina, and I had to chalk that game up or do that or whatever you want to say. But I buy them. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be competitive this weekend. The question is, are they going to cover the spread? I would lean to them covering the spread, but I think they'll be competitive. I don't think they'll win the game.
Okay.
This is a team I think is going to probably – you got to remember, you look at their schedule. There's a few other games. They got to go to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They got a few other games here. Auburn goes to them. I'll give them 9 wins. So I'll buy them. Give me them.
Okay, you give them 9 wins. Okay, interesting.
I think they get to 9. They're what? They're sitting at 4 now?
Yeah, 5. They're 5.
Yeah, they get 4 more.
I'm not surprised they've started out the season strong. Like you, I expected South Carolina to beat them. But there's a difference about this team. I don't know if it's just the Diego Pavia factor or the fact that Clark Lee's kind of coming into his own as a head coach. But, we kind of use the thing of, it's not your dad or granddad's Vanderbilt team. And that's true. This is a team that's very talented across the board. And they play with a lot of confidence. And that's one thing I noticed about them playing Alabama a year ago. And, again, maybe this is the Diego Pavia effect because of how confident he is. But they got off the bus thinking they could win that game.
Yeah.
Like they played like they knew they could win that game, which in years past at Vanderbilt, when the fatigue of being bad sets in, you can't always say that about some of those teams. So there's just a different energy about them, and I expect them to be a good team this year. And I don't know if I'd go 9 wins. I think maybe 8-4 probably, but by them, that's like national championship standards.
Yeah, this little stretch coming up here, we talk about South Carolina's October schedule. Vanderbilt rivals it. They will take on Alabama this weekend. Then they'll get LSU in Nashville. They'll get a bye week on the 11th. Then they'll get LSU in Nashville on the 18th, Missouri in Nashville on the 25th, and then they make a trip to Texas. So 10, 13, 19, and 9.
Okay.
Kind of similar to what South Carolina's got coming up over their next 4 games as well. I'll go back and say this again. I think they get 2 of those games.
Okay.
And then they get Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So I'll
Sure.
like my 9-3.
Sure. Are we rooting for Vanderbilt to beat Alabama? No. Do you don't want to see that happen?
I want to see Alabama win.
Okay. All right.
I like Kalen DeBoer. That's a whole other story.
Okay. All right. Other team, Indiana, also undefeated. And last time you probably really paid attention to them, they beat Iowa this past weekend, but they shellacked Illinois 63-10 2 weeks ago now in a game that I don't think anybody saw going the way that it did.
No. Yes, and I buy Kirk Cignetti. I buy Kirk Cignetti. Put Kirk Cignetti wherever you want to put him. I'll buy him. This guy knows how to coach ball. He knows how to motivate right now. You mentioned it. They're on the bye week this week, and then, oh, boy, they get Oregon.
Yeah.
And I do think Oregon will win that game, but look out here because they also get Indiana. They get Indiana, gets Penn State on November 8th, and that's a referendum on Big Game James. If you can't beat Indiana,
yeah,
then we got some issues. And I, sitting here today, would probably take Indiana in that game. That game will be in Happy Valley.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you look at, by the way, and I don't know what you mean by buy on this because.
Buy that what they've done so far is surprising to you.
Well,
like you say, oh, well, I kind of expected that.
I expected that, but also I'm kind of looking down the rest of the schedule and what I'm expecting. The Oregon game, but then Michigan State, something called UCLA, Maryland, that Penn State game, Wisconsin and Purdue. They're going 10-2, and they're going to be 10-2, and then we're going to have to debate. Well, they didn't beat anybody, but they lost because I don't know how you're going to chalk up the Illinois game, but they were going
Sure.
to say they lost their 2 games.
Well, I will say this year's version of Indiana looks stronger than last year's version because
Does.
that was a knock. Is like, all right, you beat a bunch of nobodies. You played Ohio State. It wasn't that as close as the score would indicate. And then you got to the playoff and got beat there, too. So this year's version of that Indiana team seems like one that, if they do make the playoff, could actually maybe win a game or so and make some kind of run because they just look like a better all-around team. So I may be surprised from the standpoint that I didn't expect them to look this good so far. I'm expecting them to be a good team because Kirk Cignetti is just a good coach that knows how to win. But I'll say I was surprised to the level in which they beat Illinois a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Georgia Tech probably shouldn't be undefeated if the ACC officiating crew got a call right at the end of that game. But nevertheless, they are undefeated. They obviously have the notable win against Clemson a couple weeks ago on the walk-off field goal. Again, you got a dog of a quarterback in Haynes King that is a difference maker. But are you surprised they are where they are at this point?
Didn't have them beating Clemson. They would be 4-1 if you ask me if I'm surprised. But here's the thing. They've set themselves up to be a college football playoff contender. And you go, whoa, Bill, let's slow down. Again, let's go through this schedule because I'm going to buy them. I'm going to buy them here. Now, well, maybe I should think about it. But Virginia Tech, they should win that game. They get a bye week, then they get Virginia Tech. At Duke, Syracuse, NC State, at Boston College, Pittsburgh, and then that season-ending clash against Georgia. They're trending toward 10-2 and 11-1. I'll buy them right now as a team that could likely get into the college football playoff as maybe it depends on how we want to look at it.
So you are surprised that they've done what they've done through 5 games so far?
Surprised they beat Clemson. Not surprised they're 4-1.
Okay.
You look at it, the Colorado game. I like them because they had Haynes King coming back. Colorado, they were trying to figure out the quarterback. So maybe surprised that they took down the Tigers there in Atlanta.
Honestly, I'm not surprised. Watching this team last year, especially in that crazy game against Georgia, and seeing how gritty and tough they are, they've taken on the identity of their head coach, Brent Pry, a former offensive lineman for Tech himself. Like, he understands physicality, and that team's taken on the identity of being physical, and Haynes King is the perfect encapsulation of that. And I know as long as Haynes King is healthy, they're going to have a chance in every single game. And obviously, they've gotten off to a good start this year. Now, again, Clemson may end up being really bad this year, so that win won't look as impressive when it's all said and done. But they handle their business. And again, call goes right, they wouldn't have had the last win over Wake Forest, but regardless, it is what it is at this point. But yeah, I'm not the least bit surprised they're doing what they're doing early in the season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I can get on board.
One more here, Texas Tech, the team that spent more than anybody in the transfer portal this offseason, off to a pretty nice start. We had them both, I think, in our most impressive wins yesterday over Utah a couple weeks ago. As again, nobody's separated themselves in the Big 12, but they definitely look like one of the contenders.
Well, and this brings me to what we want to get into here coming up, a little bit more on our current college football playoff. I buy them. They're going to be in the college football playoff. I'm taking them. Put them in. And Joey McGuire, the way he is managing, and that's what he's doing. He's managing. I don't know if he's coaching.
Yeah.
He's managing a roster full of one-year assassins, right? Basically brought in NIL money, and he's managing them, and he's letting his offense and defensive coordinators, they, by the way, get their starting quarterback this week back. But he is keeping that group together. The defense is really good for them. I'll buy them.
Yeah, I'll say I'm surprised.
I am surprised they're doing what I had them losing to Utah.
Well,
but
it almost seemed too perfect. Like, all right, they got a bunch of money in the transfer portal, brought in a bunch of guys. I don't know if they're going to be able to put it together and win with it because I didn't know how good of a coach Joey McGuire was. And again, they still got 7 more games to play to kind of see what the entire picture of this is going to be. But I am surprised they got off to as hard of a start as they have so far this year, including that impressive win over Utah with their backup quarterback for most of that game.
803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in. Some numbers coming out yesterday from ESPN, ABC. Well, I ask you now as we've kind of gone through some of these teams, how you feeling about this season so far? You having a good time? You watching? You totally invested? We'll talk about that. And again, we'll look ahead to maybe right now our current college football playoff. If Tyler and I were the committee, we'll see if we can agree and come up with 12 teams. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
Tyler headed here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, the first wine and spirits store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. I tell you about it all the time, and I'm always excited to remind you of everything they have to offer at the local family-owned and operated place. They've got the Garden Black vodka, which 25% of the proceeds go to the Garnet Trust, which benefits South Carolina athletics. They've got ready-to-drink things like High Noons and Sun Cruisers, either by the case or right there by the checkout register as well. They also have G4 Tequila. And if you're a local business in the area, they have a Class B license where they can sell to bars if you need to stock up there as well. Mention this ad on 107.5 The Game, and you can get 10% off any wine selection as well. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook and visit their website, tillyswarehouse.com, for more info and discover why Tilly's Warehouse is your new must-visit spot over in 5 Points.
.134 on a Wednesday as we put together our college football playoff committee ball caps, and I'll get to these here. I'm going to throw my 12 at you and see what you think.
Okay.
Early in the season, I'm going to throw my 12 at you and see what you think. See if you're in agreement here. It's early and it's all subjective, but at least we have a month of data under our belt that we can now kind of look and say, yes, I agree. Boo, no, I don't agree. But let's start with something you kind of got on the rundown there. ESPN, ABC putting out the numbers so far on viewership, and college football, we can hate it, we can dislike it. It's being still the actual product still being consumed at a very high rate.
You weren't here for this, but week 1 was the most viewed week 1 in college football history. And, of course, you had a ton of big games that weekend. But, you know, you mentioned something about this on Twitter. We spent the entire offseason talking about what's wrong with the sport, NIL, transfer portal, all these kind of things that cause headaches in this age of college sports. But, man, when the games actually start getting played and that kind of stuff moves off to the side, we still love the sport as much as we always have, if not more than ever.
You're right. Week 1 got us off to an incredible start. It helped that we actually had good games. LSU and Clemson coming down to the final 5 minutes. Even Florida State, Alabama. I know that score was a little bit different, but that kept us very entertained. Texas having the ball, and all right, Arch Manning, can you get the team down the field? No, you can't. That kept us all very entertained. There was a lot of just entertaining football games. Thankfully, it was all capped off by a non-entertaining game with North Carolina and TCU. But
I enjoyed watching that from the spectacle aspect, just to see Bill Belichick squirm a little bit.
That was an awkward watch because I will admit, so you had that whole build-up, the game day crews there, and they're doing everything, and everybody's loving on Bill Belichick. Randy Moss is coming out of nowhere, and he's got no affiliation with North Carolina whatsoever, but yet he's there. Poor old Lawrence Taylor's there supporting North Carolina.
Michael Jordan's there.
And so you got all this build-up, and what happens? Bill Belichick's team gets the ball, goes down and scores. And I found myself in my recliner going, I'm in.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
And then TCU just bludgeoned them after that. And it was kind of like after that, you're like, I want to see this get worse.
Yeah.
I want to see it get as bad as possible. And the flip of emotions, even for me, I was sitting there like, I don't know if that's healthy to go from one side to the other like that.
Yeah, and by the way, Clemson plays them this upcoming weekend, so it's like Clemson either gets right or they have the most embarrassing loss they've had in a long time.
Clemson gets right.
They probably will.
Clemson gets
North
right.
North Carolina's bad. Bad.
They are. We might have to. We've been talking about. I'm going to do this college football playoff, and we're going to kind of break down. Let me tell you something. Putting 12 teams together right now for a college football playoff,
it's tricky.
It's more than tricky. But we can go the other way, and put together a 4 or 5 team pod there for worst teams in the country. North Carolina gets to be in there right now.
Yeah. And North Carolina might be the worst team as like Power 4 goes, because you can go out there and talk about Akron or Kent State or something like that. They're pretty bad. But North Carolina might be the worst team that's not going to fire its coach this year.
Right.
Like, again, Virginia Tech, UCLA, they've already done that. Oklahoma State. But, in terms of the coach that's definitely not getting fired, North Carolina probably takes the cake for that one.
803-404-6100. So, how did you? I forget how you worded it. I didn't look at it, but I mean, are we ranking this college football season higher than we have some of in the previous? Are we? Are we enjoying this one more?
I'm
outside of your team because Clemson. I know darn well Clemson fans are listening right now going,
"It's the worst season ever. This sucks."
Yeah. Like, some of y'all might even be like, I'm not even watching anymore.
I will say this. Through the first month of the season, I still don't know who the best teams are. We know teams that are good. We know teams that are bad. And I think we brought this up yesterday, compared to a year ago, you could look at it and say, all right, I could see the national champion coming from some combination of Georgia, Ohio State, or Texas, right? And it ended up being Ohio State winning the entire thing. Notre Dame kind of came out of nowhere. Especially after the loss to NIU. But I think we had a pretty good idea of where the national championship was likely coming from. This year, I don't know. Again, you can throw out there the Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, and all that kind of stuff, but I can't say with the utmost certainty that I know for sure any of those teams are going to win it at the end of the day. It seems very wide open after a month compared to maybe some years past.
I'm telling you, and that'll bring us here to put your committee hat on. I did this college football playoff bracket for me, I'm sitting here actually writing out the whole bracket so I can see how it would look. 'Cause this goes back to us being dorky about the bowl games and the bracketology. But I'm not, look, I did this kind of haphazardly and without really going into some simple or straight minutia here on certain teams. But let me give you what I got. Okay? Number 1 seed, current, coming out of the month of September. I'd go the Miami Hurricanes.
Okay.
I'll take them. By the way, in this bracketology, I realized I did not put in a non-Power 5 team. Should be South Florida in here, and that would or South Florida or Memphis, depending on how they want to do that.
Somebody from the American. Yeah.
To boost my argument, I'm going South Florida on that, because then Miami's got wins over Florida. I know that doesn't matter quite as much, but Notre Dame and South Florida, that's not bad. I got Oregon at number 2.
Okay.
I got Ohio State at 3. I like Oregon's victory on the road at Penn State more than I do Ohio State's victory at home over Texas.
Okay.
Here's my shocker.
All right.
And I'm in on this team right now, and maybe they're going to let me down. I got Mississippi at 4.
Okay. I don't think that's really a shocker.
Well, it's from the standpoint of having them that high. I know they're ranked number 4 nationally right now.
Yeah.
But I got them at 4. I do put Indiana undefeated. I put Indiana at 5.
Okay.
I got to give credit to being undefeated for in that stance. Alabama, because both of the games were road games, Florida State and Georgia, they split them. They go 1-1. I'll give them a bye or give them a pass on the Florida State game.
Okay.
You go and you win that Georgia game. That's very impressive. I got Alabama at 6.
All right.
7. I liked them when I saw them play Utah, and that Utah game kind of matters to me. I got Texas Tech. Give me Texas Tech at 7.
Okay.
8. I got Texas. Can't punish Texas too much. They haven't been attractive, right?
Well, they've only played one notable opponent so far.
Exactly.
And they lost. It was a 7-point game.
Can't punish them too much for that particular loss. I got Texas at 8. Florida State at 9. Florida State just doesn't have another good victory after that Alabama. Nothing wrong with the Alabama victory, but why do you have Alabama ahead of them? Alabama beat Georgia. Florida State doesn't have another one like that. So Florida State goes in at 9. 10. You know what? Haynes King, give me Georgia Tech.
All right, now we're getting crazy.
Yeah, let's go a little wacky here. They got a. I mean, honestly, I'll take the Georgia Tech victory over Clemson and Colorado over, say, the Missouri victory over Kansas and South Carolina, the Vanderbilt victory over Kansas and the Vanderbilt victory over South Carolina and Virginia Tech. So I'll put Georgia Tech in there for now. Let's get a little wacky and a little crazy. That also, by the way, sets up just an interesting first-round game, Texas Tech and Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
It feels like brand new blood.
I can't recall them ever playing each other. Sure.
Yeah, first-round game would be at Texas Tech. Number 11 on this group, Iowa State.
All right.
Iowa State's just kind of doing their thing, beating people. They're 5-0 on the season. And number 12, I got Georgia right now.
Okay.
So
the G5 representative would take the place of Georgia
it would be
if we
Georgia.
did this.
Yeah, it would be South Florida.
The way the playoff is set up, though.
Yeah, technically.
Okay.
Yeah, I got Georgia, but yeah, you're right. They would be technically South Florida. So your first round would be Indiana, Georgia, Indiana hosting Georgia. And I started looking at these because they're home games, because they're on-campus games. Yeah. So, that's cool. Georgia going to Indiana.
That'd be unique.
Iowa State going to Alabama. Again, I don't know, something about Georgia Tech and Texas Tech. I don't know if I'd actually watch it, but it's a different
something different.
It's different.
2 very different styles of teams, too.
Yeah, and then Texas hosting Florida State there in that game. Miami would host the winner of Indiana, Georgia. Oregon hosting Alabama.
Well, they'd be in the bowls at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. So, anyway, Miami 1, Oregon 2, Ohio State 3, Mississippi 4. But I'll tell you this. That was almost impossible to do as I started looking down.
It's tough, man. It's tough because it just seems so wide open. You don't have a lot of separation right now.
No. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. Dueling quotes. Well, Diego Pavia has spoke today. I'll read that quote to Tyler, and Johnny Manziel has prizes. We'll try and get to all of it and wrap up hour 2. It is the halftime show. Nobody's done the comparison, Tyler. I hadn't heard it. Maybe somewhere somebody has.
Okay.
Is Diego Pavia this decade's Johnny Manziel?
You haven't heard the comparison?
No, I really haven't.
Oh, I feel like that's all people talked about last
Really?
year. Because, I mean, Pavia talked about him idolizing Manziel. Where's number 2? Like, I think
I missed all this.
I think it's natural to kind of compare the two, and obviously he plays with a lot of confidence. He's done some boneheaded things off the field, much like Manziel did. So there's a lot of similarities between these two guys.
Well, you mentioned that, and apparently Johnny Manziel with a little bit of advice for Diego Pavia. He said, fearless on the field, but not off the field. Manziel told On 3 of his conversations with Diego Pavia. And apparently Diego Pavia also, well, let's just make fun of the Alabama crowd. It's a 3:30 game in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Right? So the crowd's maybe not going to be as amped up. Diego Pavia in an interview with, I guess at a little press conference, said the crowd, I think, this is Diego Pavia talking about Alabama. This is actually what he told Chris Lowe. Diego Pavia has told Chris Lowe, the crowd, I think, is going to be a big factor in the game. But we just got to play within the white lines. If we do that, if we play our game, it won't be close.
Honestly, I love this, right? We're in an age where coach speak and player speak run rampant. I love the fact that there's a guy that's not afraid to poke the bear. And I was a big Manziel fan back in the day. Me and all my friends would do the money thing walking around school. It was a phenomenon, and this very much reminds me a lot of that. This dude is confident to the umph degree, and I can appreciate that.
Should he be in the Heisman? Should we be really talking about him in the Heisman? Like, really talking about him? He should be in the contention, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you look, I don't have the odds in front of me. He's probably somewhere in the top 10, I would imagine. So you can make a case for him. If he goes into Tuscaloosa and he has a great game and they beat Alabama, he's firmly in the mix at that point. Like, no question about it. Because you have to have a moment, right? To win the Heisman Trophy, there has to be a defining moment or moments that say that is where the guy won the award. You go in, much like Johnny, again, making the comparisons here, Johnny Manziel won the Heisman Trophy in Tuscaloosa in November of 2012. And he had that crazy where the ball bounced back to him and he threw the touchdown pass to, it wasn't Mike Evans, it was the other guy. I forget his name. But, like, that was his Heisman moment. That's what all the highlights showed. That's won him the Heisman Trophy, beating a #1 Alabama team. Diego Pavia could do something similar on Saturday if they go in there and beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
I'm just sitting here thinking with Diego Pavia, this is really interesting, just the way he's come into the college football world and in some ways reshaped the college football world by getting this extra year of eligibility. And now he goes down there, and we talk about Johnny Manziel. Pavia, there's more to this. You can go read the article. I can't, Tyler, you know this. We interview people sometimes.
Sure.
It's nicer when the people you interview do not use curse words.
Yes.
That's
helpful.
Johnny Manziel. So I can't read some of these quotes, but with all that being said, this game this weekend, and we'll talk a lot more about the big games coming up over the weekend. You mentioned, how do you view this game with Alabama and Vanderbilt? Because you asked me, are we pulling for Vanderbilt? And I was very adamant. No, you said Vanderbilt. I'm very adamant. Yeah. No, I'm pulling for Alabama.
I don't know if I guess I wouldn't call it morbid curiosity. I wouldn't mind seeing Vanderbilt win this game, and I guess that technically helps Carolina because that's a quality win for Vanderbilt, which makes your loss look better, I guess, by comparison. I don't know. Like, we've never existed in a world where Vanderbilt is playing like this, competent like this, and talked about like this. So I almost have the curiosity of, like,
James Franklin had
the Franklin teams were good.
Remember, there was a game day there.
There was a game day there, so he did have them. They won 9 games. But, like, they still weren't generating this kind of buzz, right? Like, they weren't being talked about, and Diego Pavia is a big reason for that, being talked about nearly as much. So I guess out of curiosity, I'm like, what if Vanderbilt does win this game? Like, how crazy would that be? And how do we talk about them coming away from that? Because I feel like, and this isn't obviously disrespectful to a team like South Carolina, they haven't had the wow, amazing win yet.
Right.
But if they beat Alabama, then it's like, oh, are we talking about this team in the contention for the SEC and college football playoff for real now? Because I think we would be.
Yeah, if they beat Alabama, you're legitimately talking about them Yeah, and in contention for the college football playoff. And I can tell you there's a lot of things that'll make South Carolina fans sick to their stomach. Vanderbilt with South Carolina's got potentially a generational quarterback. I think generational quarterbacks are done after we figure that out afterwards. But if South Carolina's holding a generational quarterback in Lenore Sellers and Vanderbilt's holding one and it's Vanderbilt that gets to a playoff, I'm not sure we don't just burn this whole thing to the ground.
That would be a tough pill to swallow, I'll say that.
Yeah. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. Hour 3 on the way. We'll get back into some Major League Baseball, give you an update on how things are going in Cleveland. Also, look back around some of the big picture college football and talk South Carolina. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain David Ayers, the Halftime Show.
It's all right here for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. If you're looking for a mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder has got you covered. He's helped so many 107.5 Game listeners and can help you as well. We at the Game, personally, recommend him. Owner-operator right here in the Midlands, Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise processing and underwriting. If you're looking to make a move, you can give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005 or email him at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com. Interest rates have stabilized as well as the local housing market. And now's a good time to buy a house. Jacob and First Palmetto Bank have products to help home buyers. And if you're considering building a home, they have no-nonsense construction loans that fit your needs. Again, give Jacob a call at 803-719-1005. Jacob's MLS number is 198432, and First Palmetto Bank is a member of FDIC and an equal housing lender.
1 o'clock on your Wednesday. No college football tonight, just Major League Baseball. And this is fun. This is the fun time of the year when these games mean something. And by the way, if you give me meaningful afternoon sports, Tyler, I'm pretty much all. It's actually why, and I've put this on my phone and it's going crazy over here, why I have the Champions League app.
Okay.
On my phone, so I can keep up with what's going on in the Champions League as well, because you got some afternoon action happening there. But with that being said, we've got the Tigers and the Guardians right now taking place in Cleveland, and Major League Baseball, the playoffs now in full effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And yesterday was obviously a fun day. I got pretty much exciting games all the way down, except for LA taking care of the Reds. The Reds did mount because I went to bed when the Dodgers were up 8-0.
Oh, yeah.
And welcome was like, okay, the Reds at least put some runs up and made it interesting. But I don't think there's any doubt because Ohtani led off with the home run in that game. I was like, okay, well, this is probably how this one's going to go. So I feel pretty confident saying the Dodgers are probably going to take that one into coming up tonight. But the other games, and what we're still 1-0 Cleveland leading right now in that matchup against Detroit. I feel like these other games can be pretty fun and competitive today and possibly tomorrow as well.
Yeah, Detroit up 1-0 in that series, and they are in Cleveland. And I believe I just saw where I believe the Tigers are up 1-0 Cleveland's up 1-0 in that game. They just went to break there, wrapped up the third inning, and Cleveland is up 1-0. Coming up here in about an hour, game that I don't know, just it intrigues me a little bit more. The Padres and the Cubs. I think because of Jen's love for the Cubs, because the Cubs are lovable losers and they're kind of a second fiddle America's team because of WGN.
Sure.
I think we enjoy watching them, and I will get home after the show and plop that on.
I got my Wrigley Field shirt on today.
Yeah, about that.
My wife was there on business last week and got to go see them play the Mets last Tuesday and got me this shirt. And I'm not a Cubs fan, but again, the history of baseball, and one of my favorite memories as a sports fan was watching them actually win the World Series because of how important and pivotal that was back in 2016. But yeah, fun game yesterday. Again, competitive against a fun Padres team, and I expect more of the same today. And you get the vitriol with the Yankees and the Red Sox, which I think every playoff series needs. So these other ones don't quite check the same boxes, but that'll be another gritty, fun battle coming up later on tonight as well.
And you mentioned that 6 o'clock on ESPN. Boston up 1-0 on the Yankees in a little bit of a controversial game yesterday, just from the standpoint of Aaron Boone goes out and pulls Max Fried at 102 pitches. And as I said, in this day and age of Major League Baseball, I actually I don't agree with it, but they are so intent on saving pitchers' arms. Now the pitcher for the Red Sox, he threw 117 pitches.
Yeah, Garrett Crochet.
Crochet, thank you. Yeah, from Tennessee, originally from Tennessee, by the way. I saw Wes Rucker tweeting about that. Tennessee, by the way, had a monster, I don't know if you saw this, monster baseball weekend in terms of recruiting. And so it kind of popped up on my Twitter. But Garrett Crochet yesterday threw 117 pitches. Max Fried was at 102, looked like he was rolling along. Pull him out. Bullpen instantly essentially blows it. And now the Red Sox have a chance to take the series and break the Yankees' hearts again.
Yeah, again, that is the tough decision of being a manager, is when to pull a guy and when to keep rolling with one. And, yeah, again, Max Fried was out there dealing, and you felt pretty good about what you had in the bullpen, so you didn't expect to drop off. But, yeah, Luke Weaver comes in there, gets knocked around a little bit, and it looked like it was going to be corrected with the Yankees loading up the bases with no outs there in the bottom of the ninth. And credit to Aroldis Chapman for pitching himself out of that jam and securing the win for the Red Sox.
So the Red Sox took a 1-0 lead in that, and if they win tonight, should they win and win the series, I will be out at Village Idiot in the month of November during Pizza for Preemies month and make some pizzas.
They were doing good till you put that out there. I think that's where the tide really
was a second
turned.
tweet. Yeah, but you gotta kind of look in this situation again. I know when we get to that month, Preston and Brian Glenn will get together and hook up. And I know we did a lot of things here on the station for Pizza for Preemies, and Brian was a big part of it because it's near and dear to their heart. But you gotta potentially rub it in. And I thought we were in a good. I thought we were in a good spot. 11 outs to go. We were 11 outs to go at home. Turns out we weren't.
Now, what did Brian say to you after this? Did he have any comment?
No, he just sits quietly. He knows.
He's waiting.
He's a very wise man, a very wise old man, but
Okay.
he's a very wise man, and he understands that the series is not over. Win tonight, get it to a game 3 tomorrow night, and just see what happens.
Now, are you a big trash talker? Like, if you have this kind of thing with your buddies, you going back and forth, or do you kind of wait until the very end to kind of say,
No, I
gotcha.
run my mouth.
Okay, all right.
That was I think Jen couldn't handle it for the NASCAR pick'em.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that Jen.
How many years in a row?
I had 2 championships.
Two championships in a row.
I'm out this year. I haven't been picking, so
Yeah.
I call shenanigans on that Corley Pool Solutions Checker
Okay.
Flag Challenge this year. It's an unofficial.
Gotcha.
Whomever wins it's an unofficial championship.
You're gonna protest it.
Yeah. It's an unofficial championship without a doubt. Because I was 2 points behind the lead when I
Okay.
went to the hospital. 2
Gotcha.
points, and so anyway. But speaking of making picks, all right, we're gonna around here. We're gonna get back in. We're gonna bring back out that wheel of punishment. I'm gonna go to Target or Amazon. We're gonna purchase us a little wheel here. We're gonna put some stuff on the line. We're not gonna just make random picks around here and not be held accountable. Things will hold us accountable. Might have to eat some crickets one time. Patrick Perrett, I think, had to eat some crickets.
I don't know if I go that far, but sure.
Maybe a scorpion. It might have been a scorpion too. I can't remember. But we're gonna do that. But I gotta go get the wheel of punishment. But we're gonna make our picks on the World Series. Now, I put on Twitter yesterday. Mine are out there.
Okay.
What I want is not what I'm picking. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You have what you desire and what you think's going to happen.
I want the Cubs and the Mariners.
Okay.
Give me Cal Raleigh. Give me the Cubs. I'm all in on the World Series. That'll keep me watching. That'll keep me watching. All right, but that's not what I foresee happening. I picked yesterday. Now here's how we're going to do this. Just one of our 2 teams has to get in.
All right.
If not, we got to spin the wheel of punishment here in the coming weeks. All right. But I put out yesterday. I foresee us having a Dodgers Blue Jays World Series.
Okay.
I was close. I'll be honest. I typed out Phillies initially last night when I was putting this tweet out, and then I thought about it for a minute, and to be quite honest, the way the Dodgers played last night, I was like, I feel pretty good about that pick. But I put it out before the game. This was actually, it was after the Tigers Guardians, but I put out yesterday. So that's going to be my 2 picks. I've gotten. You feel free to follow me on that, but I have taken the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. One of those 2 teams has to get in to keep me from having to spin the wheel of punishment.
So, do I need to pick 2 different teams?
No, you can take. You're playing. You're playing the wheel. You don't want to end up on the wheel.
And your pick had no influence on mine here. Just for record, I also like the Dodgers. I still think that's maybe the best roster top to bottom. They showed that last night with how many runs they scored against the Reds. So I'll go Dodgers from the NL side of things. And this is like half heart as well as half like something I want to see. I want to see the Mariners in the World Series. Again, a organization that's never won it before. You got one of the better stories in all of baseball with Cal Raleigh this year and what he's been doing. And I just personally want to see it happen. And again, the record backs things up. They're a really good team, obviously, with getting one of the buys, into the divisional series. So yeah, I'm going to rock with Mariners and Dodgers.
All right, so I got Dodgers and Blue Jays. Tyler I'm writing this down to remember it. Tyler's going Dodgers, Mariners. All right, so we'll get that. And again, in the coming weeks, we will get the wheel of punishment. Then you can come out. You can go to our 107.5 The Game live stream. Make sure you go to YouTube. Go to youtube.com. You can check out our live stream right there. The Game TV Radio. You can search us and follow along, and you'll see us doing something stupid. We'll make that a little bit more to keep us entertained as we go through the season. The story of the day, I guess locally, not much, obviously, bye week for the Gamecocks, and we talked a little bit about this. Story of the day, Braves and Brian Snitker not parting ways, but agreeing to not have Brian Snitker coach manage the program, manage the organization anymore.
And again, this seems to have been his decision, though I feel like the organization can heavily influence you to make those kind of decisions.
Well, he didn't have a contract.
His contract was up. But it's kind of like, hey, we're not going to bring you back. You can phrase this however you want, like, all right, I've decided to step away from coaching, go into the senior advisory role or whatever. But I don't think the Braves are interested in bringing him back for another season. So this is the best way to position and phrase all this, I guess.
So the Braves will move on, and I gotta admit, this is going to be really interesting to see what direction, Tyler, you feel. You've kind of mentioned that the Braves tend in the past to go from the inside and promote within. You mentioned Walt Weiss, and that's the other thing about this. If you feel that that guy is sitting on the bench, it's a little bit easier to work this kind of transition than to say have an ugly breakup and then hire somebody who is underneath him.
Yeah, and we mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you saw that the Angels.
Yeah.
So Ron Washington has had some health issues, and he's been out. He will not return as their manager coming up next year. Did you see the graphic they put out yesterday?
Where he's like in heaven?
Yeah, and they're the Angels. I get it, but when you're scrolling past and you're like, oh no, but like they're just saying thank you for what you did, and he's not returning. But that definitely scared a lot of people. I don't think, and I believe he's older than Snicker as well. So I don't think you'd go that route as much as people loved him in Atlanta as the third base coach. I don't know. And I'm looking here. There's not even like a story out yet of, hey, here's potential candidates. Here's the people they're looking at. So this is still very, very fresh. So they can really go any direction here. But again, the Braves do tend to kind of look inward when it comes to their managerial hires or promotions. So that wouldn't surprise me if they kind of went that route once again.
Yeah, something we'll follow and certainly keep you updated on in the next few weeks. Because as I said, whomever steps in to manage that organization is going to be expected to be in the World Series next year. There's no honeymoon period. You've got the majority of pieces around to make that. Yeah, we assume everybody's going to get healthy. Spencer Strider had a weird comment. I just, off the top of my head, I can't. Over the weekend, basically saying he had to reset his entire left side, I think. Did you catch that quote? It just dawned on me as well.
Yeah, it's something along those lines. And again, he had a very up and down season, dealt with injuries and all that kind of stuff. So you hope he gets back to his original form next year, because when he's on, he's legitimately one of the best pitchers in baseball.
So that is kind of the news of the day. Everything else very quiet. That's nice to have a quiet afternoon. So we'll get into a little more college football. We'll look ahead to the next few games and do a little scouting. Also get a little bit more into big picture college football as we roll along. You're listening to Tyler Head, Captain Dave Adair, and Bill Gunner. It is the Halftime Show.
Ty right here for our friends over at Old Timey Meat Market. There's no game for Carolina this weekend, but that should not stop you from getting out there and doing some grilling with some family and friends. Maybe while you take in all the other great college football action happening around the country. And if you're going to be doing that, there's no better place to get all that you need for that tailgating or grilling experience than with our friends over at Old Timey Meat Market. To find their shelf stocked with various cuts and grades of beef, pork, poultry, seafood, and exotic meats. Their selections are always fresh, never frozen, competitively priced, and of the highest quality. In multiple locations where you can go check them out, including in St. Andrews, South Congaree, and out where Bill and I live out there in Lexington. So again, go to Old Time Meat Market and get everything you need for your tailgating or grilling experience this upcoming weekend. Old Time Meat Market, quality selection, a cut above the rest.
2:18 on a Wednesday as we move toward Terry Ford and Jay Phillips. I understand Jay was complaining post-show, or post-hour show, his show, to open about me having the heat on in here.
Yeah, Jay's first act of business when he comes in is to immediately turn the air way, way down. He and Ryan Brewer were both critical of what the temperature was yesterday.
Yeah, well, I got bad news for Jay. Moving forward, this might be a usual thing until I can get completely healthy. So Jay's going to want to come in prepping every day as if it's going to be 90 degrees in here.
Well,
since we have
Jay could sweat in Antarctica. So
very true. So, but we'll get you ready. Jay Phillips and Terry Ford coming up right after us, 3 to 6 later on today. Little NFL talk. We'll get back to college. But a little NFL talk. And let me throw a question at you here. There's 2 undefeated teams left.
Yep.
The Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills. If I give you those 2 right now, whom would you take as the most likely to be in the Super Bowl?
Ooh, man.
You got the defending champs?
Yeah.
Or you got the Buffalo Bills?
It's a great question.
And they could play, I get it, they could play each other.
Right.
If you got to pick one or the other, right now, the 2 undefeated teams, who would you take to most likely be in the Super Bowl?
Man, until proven otherwise, I'd probably have to rock with the Eagles, man. And I get it. They're not playing pretty football right now. The offense is doing enough to win, which, hey, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, right? But, man, they find a way to win each and every time. Now, the Bills, again, are a lot more of a fun team to watch, and I think Josh Allen's a better quarterback than what Jalen Hurts is, but they always run into that snag every single year. Name the Chiefs in the playoffs, and until proven otherwise, you just kind of assume they're not going to be able to do it once again.
We're doing that thing again with the Chiefs where, well, and I shouldn't say with the Chiefs, but with a lot of big-time franchises where we start to write them off, right?
Yeah.
Like, we were like, oh, they've been around too much. Chiefs now 2-2 after beating the Ravens this past week. Because what I was going to tell you is I would actually side with the Bills because I think the NFC is more difficult for the Eagles, and I think the Eagles have a few flaws right now. Like if you were to look at if just going through the Lions, the Packers right there, I think are more difficult. I can't write off the Bucks with Baker Mayfield. We'll see what the 49ers or the Seahawks become, and the Rams with ageless, by the way, Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
How old is Matthew Stafford? What do you think, 47, 40, 57?
Let's see. He came out in the 2008 draft, so he would have been 21 at the time. So he has got to be 37, probably 38, just off the top of my head.
I mean, I still remember being over there in Athens for the 07 Carolina-Georgia game with him and Noshan Marino against Blake Mitchell and Corey Boyd, and Carolina won 16-12.
Still can't believe Carolina won that game.
That was a wild game. Spurrier. That was a Spurrier game.
That was Spurrier classic because it was a weird score, low scoring. Yeah, that's how all those games seem to go.
But yeah, I would actually, again, I feel like the NFC more difficult than the AFC, and I feel like the Bills right now are kind of the cream of the crop there when you look around at the rest of. I mean, are you going to side with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers? The Bengals don't have a quarterback. They should have Jameis Winston. We talked about that yesterday. You taking Indiana Jones and the Colts? You going like who in the AFC scares you outside of the Bills right now?
It is interesting because for the longest time the NFC has seemed so wide open, and you can look at how many different NFC teams have played in the Super Bowl in the past 10 to 15 years, and it's quite literally almost all of them, believe it or not. But now it does kind of seem like it's becoming a little bit more top-heavy in terms of a few teams that kind of consider themselves to be solid contenders, where it feels like this year, based on what we've seen, maybe we're seeing the shift where the AFC is a lot more spread out and not as top-heavy, where, again, you always believe in the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson, what they have on offense, but he's injured right now, going to be out for a couple weeks. And here's the thing, especially with how bad that defense is, they could be in a 1-5 hole by the time he comes back, and that may be too much to dig out of to get yourself into the playoffs at that point. So they may not be a factor at all. Kansas City, they finally got to
Kansas City will be there.
Kansas City will be there, but again, you question how strong they are, but until proven otherwise, you just kind of assume that they're going to find their way out of the AFC as well. I don't look at the Steelers as a Super Bowl-esque type of threat. Yeah. I think the Chargers are a team that's going to be very dangerous this year.
I like the Chargers right now would be the team that I would say is the biggest challenger. I would actually, if I was doing a ranking of the AFC, it would be the Bills at 1, followed by the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
And I might even throw Jay's Broncos in there at 4.
Broncos look strong. Yeah, that entire AFC West looks incredibly strong, for the most part there. But, it may be kind of a shift to where the NFC is, 2 to 3 teams that we think can win it, and the AFC may be a little more wide open than it has been.
But I'll admit, when you look at it, I feel like the power conference is the NFC. The better teams are in the NFC. Again, Eagles, Lions, Packers. Again, right behind them, Bucks, 49ers, trying to figure those out. But what would you do right now with Lamar Jackson, the potential for his injury?
Yeah, I certainly would. And again, your season's kind of riding on what happens in the next couple weeks, because the last thing you want is for him to come back too early, re-aggravate the injury to where it's a longer-term thing. I think they projected 2 to 3 weeks, and I think they have a bye built in there as well. So let him sit the next 2 games, see where he's at by that point, and then bring him back, and hopefully he can try and salvage things. But, he is your franchise right now, and you don't want to do something that's going to potentially hurt his abilities in the future. And, again, your defense isn't going to get you very far this year, so I don't really know what to make of this team for 2025. But I think you got to really think long-term in how you play this with Lamar Jackson to not jeopardize your future with this injury.
And one other two NFL news and notes. Number one, Joe Flacco's been benched, only for about the 96th time in his career.
We all saw this coming.
But Dylan Gabriel expected to be the starter for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, which you know what the debate now becomes of how long until Shedeur Sanders goes out there. And look, given the situation, we all knew that Flacco was probably going to start 5 or 6 games, was going to struggle or get hurt, and then somebody else was going to come in and take over the reins. I kind of thought it might be Shedeur, but instead they've gone with Dylan Gabriel, and I think they're playing in London against the Vikings this upcoming weekend. And if he struggles, then you turn it over to Shedeur Sanders. If he plays okay, then you keep riding with him. But, yeah, the never-ending cycle of rotating quarterbacks with the Browns continues, and again, I think Gabriel may play good for a game or 2, then struggle, and they try Shedeur Sanders, and maybe just kind of play musical chairs for the rest of the year. I don't know, but this is a very Browns situation to find yourself in.
And then also kind of an update, Jaden Daniels medically cleared by the Commanders, so he should be good to go for the weekend. I left the Commanders in talking out of some of those really good teams, talking about the Lions, talking about the Packers, talking about the Eagles. When Jaden Daniels is healthy, the Commanders are as fun to watch as any team in the NFL.
Yeah, no, you saw this past weekend. There's definitely a difference when the Commanders are run by Jaden Daniels and when they're run by Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
Definitely a drop-off there.
803-404-6100. So there's a little glance around the NFL. A couple good games this weekend. We mentioned Dole J. Phillips and his Denver Broncos. Broncos heading to Philadelphia. That'll be a 1 o'clock game on CBS. The Eagles favored by just 3.5. But that's another really good game that you can start your NFL Sunday off with and see what happens. Kind of a test for Bo Nix.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, he's come along well. Now, what is third year being the starter? Started halfway through the season a couple years ago. And obviously Sean Payton's a great coach, and they've been slowly building this into a series type of contender. And I think you saw a lot of good things out of him on Monday night against playing a hapless Bengals team. But regardless, this will be a good litmus test against a really good defense in Philadelphia to see where the Broncos are at this early in the season.
If you want to go the exact opposite of that, so that's a good one. Denver and Philadelphia, you can, and we'll be forced to watch it because of NFL rules. Miami and the Panthers.
Yeah, is that worse than Miami and the Jets playing this past weekend on Monday night?
It's close.
It's pretty bad. We did our NFL top 5, bottom 5 earlier on today, and I give credit to the Panthers last week for beating the Falcons and then returning to status quo for a pretty ugly loss to the Patriots this past weekend. And we love our guy, Xavier Legette. Man, he's struggling. It's not a good start to the year. Tedero McMillan is kind of taking over the wide receiver spot out there.
I wonder Xavier's unfortunately heading for a spot on the bench. The 4 o'clock game, by the way, I just mentioned Jaden Daniels back. The Commanders go to the Chargers and take on Jim Harbaugh, and that'll be a really good one at 4:25 as well. And then the night game, New England and Buffalo on Sunday night. Monday night will be Kansas City and Jacksonville. So you get a little Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence there. So
Jacksonville, a little bit of a surprise this year. 3-1 start.
They're playing better, so that'll be one to actually tune in and catch next Monday night. So there's your NFL kind of rundown schedule, some news and notes out of that. We'll come back, get back into the college game, and a couple things going on there. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain David Dare. It is the Halftime Show. 2:34 as we roll along. Bill Gunner, Tyler Head, Captain Dave Adair. Dave sporting the blue wristband today that lets me know he has been at the hospital. I now have all the knowledge of when you wear one of those things.
Dave goes to the doctor a lot. He actually asked me the question when he came in. He's like, how many doctors do you have? And I was like, I don't know, like 3. How many you got, Dave?
Oh, I believe at the moment it's around 12.
Oh, my God. What, one for every month?
Sometimes 2 months.
We are a geriatric show here.
Yeah,
I hope you chose the high-end plan for the health insurance.
Yes. Well, I have different health insurance now.
Okay. Well, hopefully they pay for a lot.
Good news, folks. This may be the show where we teach you all about Medicare and Medicaid, which I'm currently learning about myself right now. So not just will we bring you entertaining, informational sports discussion each and every day, we may teach you a little about the healthcare process and what's going on out there. 803-404-6100 with any of your healthcare questions. Big picture, Tyler asks a great question. So Sam Pittman gets let go on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And in this world of college football these days, success is expected almost immediately. Transfer portal, NIL. Tyler says, did Kirk Cignetti and Clark Lee's success put more pressure on a coach like Sam Pittman? I think you got a legitimate question here.
I think so, because let's kind of look at Arkansas and, those Petrino teams right around the time that Carolina was having success. We're having success, too, winning 10, 11 games, going to major bowl games and all that kind of stuff. But since then, they've kind of toiled in that average to below average in the SEC. And there are some programs that we look at the Power 4 level. You can pick one from just about every single conference. That we say, okay, well, that program's just supposed to be not great or at best be average. And I think Vanderbilt's the shining example of that, because they've always been the doormat of the SEC. And it's like, well, Vanderbilt's good seasons are 7-5 and 6-6. They make a bowl game, they're going to be happy about it. And look, there's still a lot of season left to be played. But I think you look at where Vanderbilt's at right now, saying, wow, this Vanderbilt team has the chance to do something no Vanderbilt team's ever done before. And you look at Arkansas, and it's like, all right, you're just okay. And what Sam Pittman's done over the past couple of years, 10, 15 years ago, probably would have been acceptable by Arkansas standards, but not anymore. And what Clark Lee's doing at Vanderbilt, what Cignetti certainly did at Indiana last year, I think tells every program out there, hey, we can do this ourselves. We got to find the right coach, got to have the right resources, but it's not impossible to have success no matter what your school is or what their history is as a program.
It's a great, and Arkansas also, at least as far as we know, is far different than Indiana. I got to admit, I'm not sure what Indiana's NIL situation, and I've never been to Bloomington. I have no clue what the facility situation is. I mean, I know that, Tyler, you would agree with me, Indiana probably on NIL has no problem spending it on basketball, I would assume. And
we would classify them as a basketball type of school. Mm-hmm. They enjoy football, but if you said, hey, would you rather, have a 10-win football season or a Final Four appearance, they're probably going to choose the Final Four appearance. You know what I mean?
I would assume so. I think they're becoming a football. They're getting into some football now. But it's a good question for these coaches that'll be at Virginia Tech, that'll be at Oklahoma State, that'll be at Arkansas. What is your time limit on success, and what is considered success now? Shane Beamer in year one, the expectations were a little bit different, and he was able to squeak out the 6-6 season, but then also go to a bowl and win it and pull the upset over a double-digit favorite in North Carolina, and then get a nice Mayo bath dumped on him.
Yep.
For those that have forgotten about that, feels like forever ago. Hadn't won a bowl game since, but he's followed that up with obviously an 8-5 and then a 9-4, and so success has been there. Now, more was expected of him in year 5. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes. So you wonder what expectations are going to be in Blacksburg and what they're going to be, especially in Blacksburg, where they're going to put in $229 million into the athletic budget, and at Oklahoma, where I think they have a particular budget that's set to win now as well.
Well, and that's the combination that you have to have, because the resources are important, which I also have to have a good head coach in place, because you can have a ton of money in NIL. That doesn't mean your talent's going to be able to go out there and be maximized. And I think you've seen that, unfortunately, in the Lincoln Riley Southern Cal team so far, where it's like, yeah, they're good, but they're not as good as they should be, considering what resources we know they have and all that kind of stuff. And look, Signetti, as you know, much as he likes to poke the bear and say things to take jabs at the SEC, he's a darn good football coach. And you see that with just the way he coaches his team, where they're winning by 53 points and he still looks angry on the sidelines. Like,
right.
that's a Nick Saban type of thing that, you know, you can't teach in a coach. They either have it or they don't, because he demands perfection like so many of the great coaches in college football do. So I do think there's an air now where everybody says, okay, if we get the resources and hire the right coach, there's no reason why we can't do what Indiana's doing right now with Kurt Signetti. And I do think that puts a lot more pressure on all those coaches, whoever they end up being, going to the respective 4 power schools, 4 Power 4 openings that are open as of right now, saying, hey, and it seems like a lot of them are going to put the resources behind them to succeed. Now go out there and do it, or in the next 4 years, they're going to be having the same kind of conversation again.
And this also kind of circles back to South Carolina's next opponent, LSU, and what LSU fans have expected of Brian Kelly, and what it appears they're not going to have through what he is in year 4 himself. Year 5, year 4?
2, 3, 4. Yep, year 4.
Yeah, so year 4. And what he has not done in 4 years, and likely is not going to do this year.
Well, and he is the first coach, really, of their NIL era. Ed Orgeron, he got bounced in year 1 of NIL back in 2021, where you couldn't really leverage it the way that you can today. So you had what is a very good football coach in Brian Kelly coming into a place with a lot of resources that allow you to succeed. And again, with the way they started the season, now I get it, 99% of programs are killed to be 4-1 and ranked 13th in the AP poll, but the standard of LSU, especially for this season, is higher than that. So they have already underachieved to a degree this year, particularly on offense, that is causing a lot of frustration down there in Baton Rouge.
So we'll talk a lot about LSU next week, and as we mentioned earlier, some reports coming out, some legitimate reports, because again, I forget who the fake Twitter handle was yesterday, but some legitimate reports from Chris Lowe and Pete Nakos with On3 Sports that Garrett Nussmeier is indeed dealing with an ab strain, and that they're hoping that the bye week will help allow him to heal that some, and he'll be able to play a lot better moving forward for the remainder of the season. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on any of that, as we've talked again, big picture college football. Real quick, let's bring it back here. South Carolina, you've got a question here looking ahead and scouting this month's opponents. What do you see?
Yeah, again, I feel a lot better about the LSU game than maybe we did at the beginning of the season, because they're having their own offensive struggles. The Oklahoma thing is up in the air because you don't know Mateer's status or what he's going to look like when he does return. I do feel a little bit worse about the Alabama game, because I think we had a perception after week 1 like, oh, hey, wait a minute. This ain't the same old Alabama anymore. They may be limping into here. Well, they might come in here, a top 5 team in the country at that point in time if they play the way they played against Georgia the other night. So that looks like it got a whole lot tougher. And again, we're a month into the season, so perception was going to change. And we also have to add in the caveat, Carolina is not as good as we thought they'd be through the first 5 games of the regular season, which does make you feel like their chances are a little bit hurt compared to where we thought they were going to be against a lot of these teams before the season started.
All that's just kind of some conjecture there looking ahead to this month, the month of October. We're officially into it. I've already seen on Twitter today some tweets about Charlie Brown's Great Pumpkin. Did you ever get into the Great Pumpkin?
Yes, that's kind of like an annual watch type of thing.
Okay.
I've not come across the tweet about waking up Green Day's singer, Billy Joe Armstrong, because they have the song "Wake Me Up When September Ends." Like, hey, wake him up. Haven't seen that yet, but that's a pretty common joke. Yeah, there's a couple of cliche things that happen every October 1st, I guess.
We'll pick out the biggest cliche things. We'll wrap up our program. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain David Dare. It's the Halftime Show. It is 1-1 in Cleveland. I looked up, and the Tigers had a run taken away from them, so it is 1-1 in the bottom half of the fifth with the Guardians and the Tigers as Jay Phillips makes his appearance to turn the air conditioner.
By the way, I hear Jay Phillips is on the hot board to be the Braves' next manager. You heard that here first, by the way.
I will put that on a tweet and shortly and get that out there as we will. We've been talking about that today. You got someone you want to go with besides Jay Phillips? I meant like a favorite. I'm not asking who you think it'll be.
Honestly, I haven't given it a whole lot of thought because kind of going back to the conversation that Jay and I had yesterday, there wasn't a whole lot of rumblings about this leading up to it. Like, if you go back to July, I was like, oh, yeah, definitely this is Snickers last year. But typically as you get close to the end of the season, you start hearing about things, and, okay, this is going to happen then or at this point. And we didn't really hear anything until earlier on this morning. So I've honestly not given it a lot of thought of who that would be. And, again, I'm sure there'll be an article out there at some point today or tomorrow that kind of has who the serious candidates are based on the insiders. But I've really not given it a whole lot of thought, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't even know who you would look at and be like, yeah, that's a...
Well, and here's the thing. With baseball especially, and I said this earlier on this week, it's a sport that we kind of singularly focus on our team because, hey, most of the games are being played at the same time, so you don't get the chance to observe as many teams you do in football and stuff like that. So, when a head coach position gets open in the NFL, we say, okay, this coordinator, that coordinator are kind of the hot names based on what those teams are doing, where as opposed to Major League Baseball, we don't always know the bench coach or the pitching coach of these other teams that might generate that same kind of buzz when it comes to these head coach positions being open. So I think it's a little bit harder to kind of throw names out there just in general when it comes to Major League Baseball and what teams are looking for in their next manager.
Yeah, we'll continue to track that over the next several days and see who the Braves get to set themselves up for the 2026 season. 803-404-6100. So we'll leave you with a few minutes of food discussion. Yesterday I brought up candy corn. I feel like candy corn a little bit more maybe do it more with Thanksgiving, but it is officially candy corn season, much like it's pumpkin spice season.
Is there any more controversial candy than candy corn?
Peeps are close.
Peeps pretty close.
Clint, our Peeps guy, who will weigh in from time to time.
He'll fight you in a parking lot for Peeps?
Yeah, he's a Peeps guy. And I'm not a Peeps person, but I am, as a matter of fact, there's a good chance after this, now that I say it, I'll be hitting a Walgreens or maybe a CVS for a bag of candy corn. And you can go really down the rabbit hole and get the kind of seasonal candy corn.
Sure.
It's got kind of more of the, I don't know what I'm going to call it chocolate because it's brown, but
yeah.
Kind of the more seasonal is what I would go with.
Okay. I don't have a problem with candy corn. I don't think I've ever gone out of my way to get it, but it's like one of those things, if you handed me some, I would eat it.
Yeah.
But I'm not to the point where I'm going to go to the store and buy some, right? Like if I'm buying Halloween candy for myself, I'm buying like the variety pack of like Snickers and Twix and Three Musketeers and stuff like that. I don't typically go for candy corn. But again, if you handed me some and said, hey, here's some candy corn, I'd eat it and not complain. That's just me.
Just looking it up online for a second. How about this?
All right.
Okay, I'm going to throw something at you here. There is now gourmet blackberry cobbler candy corn.
So so the candy corn is flavored now.
Yeah,
like
the candy
cobbler.
corns are working. Candy corns are branching out here in 2025.
Because what is the flavor of candy corn? Like, what would you describe that flavor as? Is it supposed to be like pumpkin-y?
Honey. Okay, I'm reading this. Honey and sugar. Yeah, I'll go with that. Honey and sugar.
Oh, okay.
If I eat the yellow, the orange, and the white one, it's honey and sugar is what I go with.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But I guess
and a little vanilla. I eat the vanilla, but I don't get the vanilla because of the.
So every color on it represents a different flavor, I guess, is what you're telling me. Okay, I've never thought about it like that, but I guess that makes sense. I thought they just dyed it to look festive for the season.
Candy corn has a reputation for generating polarizing responses, with articles referring to it as Halloween's most contentious sweet, with people either love or hate.
And again, I'm like in the middle. Like I don't hate it, but I'm not like, starting a parade for it. Like if you hand me some, I'll eat it. It's fine, but I don't go out of my way to have candy corn. If I went through this entire Halloween season without eating candy corn, I'd be fine with that. But if you handed me some, I'm like, okay, fine, sure, whatever, thanks.
So see, it's branched out. Candy corn is now branched out because now you've got, and I'll let you figure out the days for this. Cupid corn,
I'm assuming that's Valentine's Day,
bunny corn,
Easter. I have seen that.
okay,
Yeah.
harvest corn, which Thanksgiving,
Oh, okay.
because this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
technically, and then reindeer corn.
Okay. I mean,
They didn't get very creative with the names, by the way. They stuck with the corn in there, but
well, because you want it to still have that identity so people know what it is. But, like, yeah, I mean, you can't function off of a candy that only sells for about 2 months out of the year. So you got to get extended use out of it, I guess.
see now, initially, it was advertised as an affordable and popular treat that could be eaten year-round. And it was for the first half of the 20th century, candy corn was a well-known penny candy or a bulk confectionery. So we're
Okay.
teaching you some information here. I'm gonna
So at some point, it just got tied to Halloween.
yes, basically somewhere along the line, then candy corn developed into a fall and Halloween staple around the 1950s when people began to hand out individually wrapped candy to trick-or-treaters. The harvest-themed colors, increased advertising in October helped candy corn become a fall staple.
That makes a lot of sense. I get it. I'm sure the text line's full of people that hate candy corn, which, again, everybody's pretty decisive on this one way or the other, I guess.
KT from Lexington, start candy corn, bench peeps, cut jelly beans.
Ooh.
Controversial.
All right.
We might have to come back to that one. KT
Yeah.
might have us for that one tomorrow.
I think we'll have a lot of candy discussion this month. I have a bad sweet tooth.
And
I love candy.
Clint, our peep guy, weighs in. Candy corn's the taste of awesomeness. And Bill, you have to try chocolate dipped peeps.
Ooh.
Now, peeps is a marshmallow, right?
It
Or
is a
some kind of-
marshmallow covered in, like,
Okay.
sugar.
All right, so just FYI, and then because the new Halloween commercial's out, I watched it 18 million times last night.